Hello and welcome to this reaction video. Now this reaction video a video by Hasan, this is actually from his channel, but it is from a channel that is taken from one of his streams. And anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna react to the video that he reacted to. This is gonna take a while.
Wait, let's watch this. Is Gen Z misinformed? Conservative teens versus liberals versus moderates. It's gonna make me mauled.
From the middle ground, keep an eye out for an interactive
Yeah.
prompt in the middle of this episode. Thank you for watching.
I don't think that won't work for us, but no.
Oh god, I'm gonna hate this. I'm gonna hate this so much.
I do feel
So, our generation is misinformed. I think personally, incredibly so. Incredibly so. I'm not calling everyone that is part of my generation stupid. I'm just saying, like, you know.
generation is heavily misinformed sometimes because of social media. A lot of the times they just see movements as sort of a trend without looking into them, and I feel
What? Wait. She's a conservative, but she agrees. I think that's wishful thinking, to be honest. Because, like, they don't see things as a trend.
I feel that happened so much.
Like,
They'll just go with it, and I feel like a lot.
no. What the fuck are you talking about? No. This is the kind of thing I hear from people who are like, oh, you know, the younger generation, they're so accepting of people. Like, no, they're not. Like, I've been to school, okay? Like, I'm not someone who was at school like 20 years ago or 10 years ago or like 5 years ago. I've been at school, and guess what? The amount of slurs you'd hear on a given day, the amount of misogyny you'd hear, all that sort of stuff, the amount of, like, just kind of moronic behavior from, like, people who are like misogynistic or transphobic, all this, you'd probably hear it probably at least once a week. You know, and in my opinion, the younger you get, it appears the more it becomes less of like, oh, those people, are more actual slurs, not like, oh, using word like gay, for example, as an insult, which is what kids do, but like actually using the F word, you know, not the FA word, you know. Basically, you know what I mean, like that kind of thing. It's like, you know, at that point, if you're going to be in the situation in which, you know, you have the likes of children doing that and using that, then no, they're not accepting me, and that's sort of my point here. Like, in essence, no, they don't just jump on trends. No, I have to be just like.
A lot of the times, it makes it very easy for us to kind of just be tailed by the government, and I feel that we need to.
That's. Jesus Christ, that's kind of embarrassing. It's tailing by the government, you know.
Do a lot better job at looking into things and really reading into things and starting to take facts.
You need to do a lot better job at looking into things, but reading into things is a bad thing. Isn't that sort of the point? It's like, oh, you're reading into it, like you're overly analyzing it, like you think this is happening, but it's not. It's like, apples are really a secret government conspiracy. Otherwise, why would they be tracked? Why would they be checked by government officers? Why would they be doing that? No, that's for Food Safety Authority. Actually, that's kind of important. If you don't have that, then you might find that you might have an accident with your food. You know, it's like, yes. This is the point. Yeah, that sounds like conspiracy level almost.
Facts over feelings.
Yeah. I can't.
Facts over feelings. Hate to break it to you. If you're a conservative, facts. Best to just play down the whole facts thing, because interestingly,
Can't tell if
especially if you're a religious one, because if you're a religious one, wow, you better ignore all the facts as much as possible, because you are so fucked if you want to be religious and also be like an uber capitalist.
Jubilee is just like consistently saying that leftists are liberals or what the fuck is going on. If your political spectrum revolves around like moderates, conservatives, and liberals, like that spectrum is already it's very right wing. Liberals, like if they're actual liberals in the way that we understand the Democratic Party, like that's a horrible political spectrum.
Because it's 10 times easier to just look at something and accept it as truth than to go and do your research and find counterclaims or something that
Wait, what?
Party, like that's a horrible political spectrum.
because it's 10 times easier to just look at something and accept it as truth
Okay. 10 times, just look at them and accept as truth, okay? A little more than 10 times. It's like a million times.
than to go and do your
Like it
research.
takes it takes like a nanosecond to accept it as true. Well, not a nanosecond. You know, the brain does take a little time. But, you know, it takes very little time for your brain to accept it as truth. It takes a relatively long time to you know, research it. Especially as, keep in mind, most people do not have the time. Like, I don't have the time. This video, I will most likely have to record this video in bits
Research it.
because I don't have the time to write the full thing. And that's the thing. Like, if I'm looking at the news and looking at stuff, I don't have time to research everything. So if you do, the problem is you'll ultimately always fall down the road of, well, you know, like, no matter what your beliefs are, you'll always find some paper or study or whatever that conforms to your belief. This is why transphobes have their, like, rapid onset gender dysphoria sort of bullshit. It's like, yeah, but if you look at that study and actually look at it, not just look at the study and read it, but actually look at the study itself, see what it was actually studying, which is transphobic parents, you know, not people who are trans, but like transphobic parents, then what the fuck do you expect? What do you expect a study that is biased to come out with? And I'm not saying the people are biased, I'm saying the actual study is biased, as in the study itself, looking at it, even if you knew nothing about the people involved in the study, looking at the way the study was conducted, it is a biased study which would be thrown out. Okay, it is very similar to a lot of. I've looked at YouTubers before. I've mentioned on a different channel. Some YouTubers come out with like a little claim that, you know, it's not luck that got them their position. It's you know, skill, I guess. And really, the one thing I was saying was the only thing that isn't luck is exploitation. That's the one choice you had. That's the one thing where you got more success, and that was into you exploiting people. Don't think maybe you should, you know, say, look at me, that's how you win. You know, bit dodgy. But the point I'm making is effectively that at the end of the day, if I'm looking at that, I have to think, well, like, you know, you have to look at that and you have to say, okay, so we have this study here, or we have this experiment someone did. Is it accurate? No, not scientifically, it's not. So, you know. So a lot of the time, if you look at these things, yeah, they'll agree with your view, but they won't be scientifically accurate. So you do need to look into what the actual study is. And can I just explain that? This is literally a full-time job. Trying to get these arguments is a full-time job. You'd be spending months rebutting something someone wrote in like an hour. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because if you want to do your research, oh yeah, quit your job, do nothing else, and spend a few months looking at the one thing, just one thing, and then come to the conclusion, no, this thing agrees with me. Like what? Or this thing doesn't agree with me. You know? But then what if that thing does agree with you, but is scientifically inaccurate? You know? Then you haven't really proved anything. It could still you could still be right. Just because the thing that agrees with you is wrong doesn't necessarily mean that it's a whole wrong concept. But of course, it could mean that. You know, the fact that the only scientific studies you can produce are wrong, are like inaccurate, that isn't a great sign. But you know what I mean? Like, that's the whole thing. Do your research. It's like, well, what in what instance are you able to do your research? You know,
and find counterclaims or something that aligns with that. Because if you're just sitting there like scrolling through TikTok and somebody says that
ban TikTok, fuck that platform, it should be banned.
this is happening, I mean, like, who's gonna?
Also, no offense, TikTok is a bad example. TikTok is like literally, you know, known for spreading, like, it's known for propaganda. Like that's what it's literally known for.
It's not really.
Educate yourself.
Yeah.
I strongly agree with both of you guys. You know, I think the reason why I was hesitant
Anyone who thinks like our generation is
about
not misinformed is a fucking idiot. Cause you are misinformed then.
walking over is, even though I agree that our generation
I'm not gonna lie, bro. This guy doesn't seem kind of moderate. Okay, as is the case with many moderates. Like, homie just looks like a Ben Shapiro watcher. Maybe I'm wrong. I might be. I gotta go pee right now,
is
though.
misinformed. That doesn't
Okay.
mean that older generations aren't also misinformed, especially
Yes, yeah. That's exactly right. Our generation is misinformed, but also older generations are too. So, you know, we're not so bad in comparison. Yeah, true, I guess. We're still pretty shit, though.
in the form of, for like Gen X and the baby boomers or whatever, cable news in particular. You have millions of Americans now who are tuning in every night to see Tucker Carlson spread misinformation.
Yeah, well, no offense, but if you watch Tucker Carlson, you basically are either a fascist or somebody who likes to watch networks that only really fascists watch. Because, that's just kind of what you are. Maybe you enjoy watching him because you like to see alternative points from people who are either insane or pretending to be insane for money, which is... It'd be kind of sad if it wasn't for the fact that, Tucker gets paid like tens of millions, like a lot of money for what he does. So it's not like, he just has to do it. It's like more like, no, he doesn't have to do it. It's just that this one makes him more money than if he went on like an actual news program instead of just like a weird sort of propaganda machine.
Information. I don't want to pick on him in particular, but he's an example. Social media is just another example of what's been going on for generations and generations of people, just with all due respect, being too lazy to do their own research and just believing what.
Yeah, but no offense, man, but it's like it's not laziness because as I said already, like if you wanted to do a bit of research, you could go out and you could find a study that would agree with you. Whether you're like an eugenics fascist or a conservative or an anarchist, it doesn't really matter. All points really, really are at the end of the day can follow down this route of like, yeah, you can find studies to back you up. Some of them are accurate, some of them are inaccurate, but they are at face value. That is a study there that says this thing. If you took the study, okay, we have to delve in the study. But then if it's kind of sort of wrong, sort of being sort of biased in certain ways, the point is at the end of the day is that you can't just go do your own research because, well, people can't. I think that's the whole point of misinformation. It's that it's misinformation so that you have to delve into it. And by the time you delve into it, you can't really, like, even if it's accurate, does that prove anything?
My dad and I spoke to each other a lot about politics, and since I was a liberal at that time and he was a conservative,
A liberal.
we would have a lot of debates. I would find myself growing and becoming more.
So, the problem I find with conservatives who are not rich is this kind of, in fairness to some conservatives, they've got a relatively, good argument for themselves. They should be conservatives at the end of the day. It's some conservatives. But if you're not a rich conservative, if you're not like, a white, rich, cis, straight man, even if you are, because, you can have a conservative government that isn't homophobic. It doesn't have to be. It can just be like, no. We're just, no, we're just saying fuck you because of your poverty situation. That's the reason. Don't you worry. It's not like, there's no, like any, don't worry about that. There's no homophobia here. It's just the fact that you're poor, so, yeah. It's like that kind of thing. Like, yeah, you can have a conservative like that. Yeah. But inherently, though, at the end of the day, you do have to ask yourself, okay, sure, but if you're the parent, and you're a conservative, it would make sense for some people to be conservatives, obviously. But just saying.
more moderate, just because the things he said and the things I listened to and the things I researched because of points that he made to me, I would find myself transitioning into more of a moderate.
Once again, though, if you're a transphobe, there is rapid onset gender dysphoria as a study to look at, and you could use that to be like, think my beliefs are right, actually. And in actual fact, you'd be wrong, because that study is bullshit and doesn't really work as a study, as in, scientifically speaking, it's nonsense. So what I'm saying is, inherently, just because you did your research doesn't necessarily mean that that means anything, because if you don't delve into the studies you're researching, then it means nothing. I'm just repeating myself for these fucking people.
I disagreed because in 2022, truth is becoming less and less objective and more subjective. And there will always be objective.
No, there are certain facts. Truth isn't becoming more. No, it's not really. Then it's not truth, is it? Like, you know, if something is true or not, if something is a fact or not, that doesn't necessarily change. Now, you could argue what we confirm as facts, and then, you know, all that sort of thing is different. But yeah, like, you can go to that argument, but in essence, you can't be arguing, oh well, what, it's subjective. It's like, no, what people view as truth may be expanded as to the evidence that's required. But at the end of the day, what is actually true, you need to make an important distinction. Because at the end of the day, human beings can't know whether something is true or not for definite, ever. Well, I mean, certain things, yes. But you know what I mean? There are certain things that are, but like, a lot of things are more like, oh no, we perceive this to be true. Now, obviously, that's because we're human beings, and, you know, all that, but, you know.
Objective truth, but humanity will stray further and further from that.
Postmodernist conservatism, boy.
The problem is, though, in essence, though, that kind of works very, very, very closely with conservatives. Like, you do know all this, most of the stuff you look at. Like, if you're not a rich person, you know, like, conservatism isn't really for you. It's not great for you. Fascism, but I don't think you'd want to admit to that. I highly doubt one of these are going to come out and say, I'm actually not a conservative, I'm a fascist, I want Donald Trump to win, and also I like, it's like, buddy, no, I don't think you do want that, do you? Oh, you do you? Fucking Christ, yeah. Wow. That makes sense. You know?
Boys, here it is. It's so strange because, like, these guys are supposed to be like, no, the word of the Bible is the objective universal truth.
Especially when a lie can be attached
And Jesus Christ was a socialist, so.
to an emotion. You see, we are thinking less and less critically and more emotionally as a whole.
Okay, that's just completely fucking stupid. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean critically? You're conservative. You can't fucking talk about critically at all. Because, like, you just don't think at all. Unless you're a rich person, or like you benefit in some way by conservatism. But like, for people who just don't even benefit from conservatism, who actually just are like, who even get harmed by it, it's like, okay, but why are you a conservative? Cause you're an idiot. Like, specifically you, not conservatives in general aren't necessarily idiots, but like, specifically you're an idiot. Like, if you want to think critically about it, yeah, but if you're not the actual rich person, then I don't see how is this a benefit for you. Like, if I was in the UK, I wouldn't vote for the Labour Party. So I understand if you're a conservative voter, but if you're saying, oh, you're a conservative, like you're actually full on conservative. Like, if you want to vote for the Conservative Party in the UK, for example, yeah, you might be just a bigot. You might be someone who hates, like, migrants, and, you know, you're just a horrible person that way. Maybe that's you, and you see it as I would probably see the Labour Party as, you know, possibly like the best of two bad options. You know, I've seen it before. People say, oh well, at least they're not Labour. It's like, yeah, are you coming from that from a basically a fascist point of view, which is like, oh, you know, you don't like, you know, I guess, Jesus. I'm hard pressed now to think of something the Labour supports that the Conservative hate, to be honest, because, you know, anyway, that's getting to UK politics. All I'm saying is basically at the end of the day, I like, if someone is saying they actually are a Conservative, like, not just they're a Conservative voter, but they're actually a Conservative, that brings into a new light where either you actually are either stupid or like, rich or, you know, living comfortably, whatever, because of Conservatives. You know, that kind of thing. Like, that's just what I'm saying at the end of the day. It's like, you know, let's be honest about this. Like, I'm just saying Conservatives don't actually necessarily think critically. That's what I'm saying. In this one in particular. Unless it turns out that he's rich, which is maybe.
Whole. And so when you see something like, for instance, George Floyd, May of 2020, that just strikes your heart. First thing you want to do, go to Instagram and post a black square. Now, what does that do?
What? What are you saying? No, actually, no. When I heard that, I thought, oh, yeah, America. You know, I didn't exactly think, oh, let's go to Instagram, because I don't use Instagram and post back. I thought, well, no. I'm saying, if I was in power, I would, you know, have those police officers arrested and put in prison, and have every single police officer who abuses their position of power put in prison. That's what I thought, you know. So no, you know.
Doing, I don't quite know, but what it made you feel.
Yeah, but that's basically arguing for action. That's like someone saying, oh, no, don't just post that there. In fact, don't even bother doing that. What you do is you put policies in effect. You actually punish those police officers. You actually get the system. Is this for like Conservative, or is he just like, no, don't be emotional, but also do act? So it's a motive to do nothing and just to like post on some platform. Like right now, apparently I would be a motive, but if I did the same thing and like did a thing reacting to this and actually did that reaction which wasn't just like, oh, posting this video, but it was actually like affecting it in actual fact, then I would be critical. Is that what you're saying? Because I don't see how exactly that's different. It's just that the person who's posting the Instagram is just not doing a thing. Like, they're not doing anything. Like,
Feel was like you did something to help that poor fellow who got.
yes, I'm still not seeing how that's emotional. That's someone thinking critically, but also not doing anything.
A terrible thing that happened to him.
When I was hearing this question, I was thinking, like, is the majority of, like,
True.
my generation, aka the people I know, misinformed? And I would definitely say, yeah. I feel like the lack of information is.
Wait, were they against? Sorry.
Feel was like you did something to help that poor fellow who got a terrible thing that happened to him.
When I was hearing this question, I was thinking, like, is the majority of, like,
not
my
sure, yeah.
generation, aka the
Alright.
people I know, misinformed? And I would definitely say, yeah. I feel like the lack of information is, like, almost as bad as, like, receiving the wrong information.
I want to touch up on something you said. I think it is true that social media did change the way we receive information, misinformation or the truth. But that doesn't make us
Oh, he's
misinformed
the disagree. He's the Egyptian.
because of that. Obviously,
So wait, what is he saying?
misinformation or the truth. But I think it is true that social media did change the way we receive information, misinformation or the truth.
Yeah, I don't think it's really an argument of like, yeah, well, you know, we were misinformed before this, so no. What? No. The question wasn't, has social media made our generation misinformed? The statement was, our generation is misinformed. Agree or disagree? And then you've just gone apparently, oh, but no, it's spread misinformation. Like, what?
But that doesn't make us misinformed because of that.
That does, though, you idiot. If you receive misinformation and you swallow it in, yeah, that's how misinformation does make you misinformed. Unless you just ignore it, in which case that can get dodgy, because like, Well, you can't just ignore. The whole point of misinformation is that it blends in with actual information. So then you're just gonna be someone who just doesn't believe anything you see. You know.
Obviously, like, yes, you have social media, it's so much easier to get information, but I don't think because we have social media that automatically makes you misinformed.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that depends now. Depends on what the algorithm likes to push to you. You know. um. Like, yeah, but still, having social media has made you misinformed, though. Theoretically speaking, obviously not everyone, but like, yeah.
What?
Middle ground.
Bro, why'd they make this like Hans Zimmer shit? They're making it seem like they're making it seem like this is the fucking, nerd Avengers, dude.
That's not exactly fair, is it?
Make birthdays brilliant with Moonpig. With a huge range of cards, including bespoke Irish designs, it's easy to...
Calm down. You got a bunch of goobers in a room, and they're spitting.
Yeah. Oh. Wow.
You want it? 1 week or Parma? 1 week or Parma?
What?
Parma. 1 week. I'm nice.
Grew up in a conservative Christian household in Iowa, so I'm very, very
Okay,
well.
the question is, my parents influence my political beliefs. That does depend, of course. Like, you could argue, oh, my parents were completely fucking stupid, and I realized that, and that influenced my political beliefs. Or you could be like, well, my parents actually, I found them really intelligent. Well, doesn't necessarily mean they are. But, so that they influence my political beliefs. Okay, so yeah, okay. Because it can go another way. So in fairness to the question, this doesn't necessarily mean just because your parents are either way. Like, you can be,
around like conservative politics all the time, and my parents have absolutely influenced like not only my morals but my political beliefs through that manner. And I think a lot of those teachings actually led me to being more progressive and more liberal over time rather than actually being conservative.
I'd say my parents gave me probably one of the most interesting childhoods out there. I was observant, so I watched my community. And when I saw how things had progressed in my community and then sort of just stopped, especially during the housing recession and crash.
Okay, so sounds like, no offense meant to him, but sounds like a bit of those, kind of slightly stupid people. No offense meant to Chandler there, but just saying, like, it does sound a bit like that.
Crash in 2007 and 8, I had a deep question as to why aren't things getting better.
Well,
they didn't teach me anything. They let me.
Well, why do you think? Because you had a conservative government. Because it doesn't matter in America whether you've got Democrat or Republican. Republican, you've got more conservative. So I guess choose Democrat, but also don't. Like, Democrats aren't going to be doing much good. They're just not going to be doing you as much harm. Which is a bit like saying, would you like to be burnt on the arm? Or to have someone knife you in the arm? I guess burned. I mean, no, I'm not gonna choose that though. I don't want that. Like, that's the thing. It's like, well, no. You don't want to do that. So want to have the option to not have that. But in America, I believe they have only like 2. Maybe I think they even lost that. Did they? It's either like 1 or 2 seats in like the Senate is not Republican or Democrat. Like, that's insane. And I believe most of them are like former Republicans. They just like, just quit the Republican Party. They're basically just Republicans. Yeah, it's fucking... Anyway.
Learn my own way. Because if they had...
Oh, no. He's really making an argument for not doing that. Not gonna lie. Homie said that was a mistake.
Taught me something, I wouldn't have had the thirst to know more. I stepped forward because I believe without them, I could have had some other sort.
I love how big of a free thinker he is in his, like, gas is $9 t-shirt.
I stepped forward.
Okay.
$9. Is it? Is it really? Because last time I checked, it's like 2. Well, not 2, obviously, but like less than 3. You know, it in and around that mark. It goes like 2 to 3, and then it sort of fluctuates. You know.
Okay. I love rising above the crowd and being an individual thinker, like a free thinker, in my Joe Brandon made the gas prices high t-shirt.
Because I believe without them, I could have had some other sort of beliefs, but I felt that what they taught me pushed me down my.
Oh. So.
Okay.
So I became
Is that a good argument?
a conservative in 2018, and I became that based off my research.
Oh God.
I was actually a liberal.
Oh God. This, yeah. Whatever Chandler, I thought there for a second was gonna go down the like stupid idiot who, you know, thinks they're intelligent sort of thing. You know, and probably is intelligent when it comes to like academic stuff, but when it comes to certain things, falls down rapidly, falls down very quickly. You know, the kind of like Ben Shapiro type, you know, the person who thinks so just because they do well, you know, when it comes to like school work and college work and that sort of thing, that means that they understand basic things, which you would hope they would, but apparently they don't. So actually, yeah, off your research, that makes it sound like we're in Egypt, to be honest. You probably shouldn't phrase it as because of my research. It's like, okay, your research, or was it just you looking up stuff? And then, like, was that research? Because, to be honest, I don't really see how anyone can say, oh, I became this off of my research. So, your research involved doing what exactly? Because, as far as I can tell, it's very hard to do research. Like, most times, you just do not have the time to be doing research, to the full extent. And if your argument is like, I did research, it's like, oh, yeah, you did. Shit research that is awful, to be honest. You did a terrible job there. No offense meant to you. But yeah, you did a terrible job. I'm not saying, oh, you did a terrible job. I'm just saying inherently, I'm just saying in general, people say, oh, they do research. It's a bit of a bad argument because yeah, it can harm you in a sense.
Liberal before.
Why does every conservative's fucking story revolve around, I did my own research, brother? No, you didn't do your own research. You watched YouTube videos that the algorithm funneled you through, okay? Because you were the product. And you didn't realize that, like, it slowly but surely was eroding your fucking consciousness.
In fairness, though, to your man, he could have done his own research. But in the same sense, as I've said, and I'm gonna stop saying this because this video has gone on. Like, I'm at like, what is it, 20 minutes now over that, you know, and I'm reacting to a video that's I'm only 6 minutes in. So I'm gonna stop repeating myself. Basically, to get the point across, just find who's just skip past the video and gotten to this point. Sometimes there are documents out there, you know, like studies and the like, that are biased in the extreme, as in they are completely wrong. This means that you can have someone do their own research, look up stuff, find actual studies and all this, except not bother to realize those studies are nonsense. You know? So yeah. That's just a little thing there.
And rebuilding it in a way that was more susceptible to weird radicalizing content. You didn't do your own research. That's like a fun and cute little way of describing watching YouTube videos and having the algorithm serve you more and more radical content.
Yeah, it would be a bit like if I was like, yeah, I did my own research, you know, when I you know, I'll come to this conclusion that it's like, no. Like you meet the also, you can't say you did your own research when the thing you're talking about is like, you know,
Moto Blitz.
when the thing you're talking about is oh, sorry, no, don't want to do that. You know, when the thing you're talking about is not like it's not a viable thing to say, oh yeah, I did my own research. But what do you mean by that? Like, you... Christ. Okay, just shove these in.
Or that, just because everyone else around me was a liberal. I would vote for Trump.
More radical content.
Or that, just because everyone else around me was a liberal. I would vote for Trump in the upcoming election over.
Okay, you're an idiot then.
For Biden over anyone else that runs against him.
Okay, you're just complete absolute stupid idiot.
Embraces free market economics just like I do.
He really wouldn't though. Trump would embrace fascism if it won him the presidential campaign. Let's just admit that. Like, and I don't mean just like soft fascism where it's like hatred of everybody who isn't just like a white, you know, who they consider American man who's cis and straight. I don't just mean that. I mean actual full on, you know, extreme, like, you know, sort of stuff. You see his supporters, you know. Like, no offense, but like, you put him over anybody, like, anybody. You're saying he's the best in the world. That's what you're saying. Like, wow, that's bad. It's a bad sign, because I don't think any politician is the best in the world. I like any politician. No politician. Because inherently, the best people to run for office are the people who don't run for office.
I do. We need less government spending. We need to cut taxes.
Okay, you're a fucking idiot then. We need to cut taxes. On who exactly?
Cut government spending, and
You repeated that twice.
Donald Trump would definitely do that.
Yeah, no offense, man, but like, if Donald Trump was paid a few billion to not cut government spending, he wouldn't cut government spending. He's very open to bribery. That is an allegation by somebody else, not me, for legal reasons.
Are your parents conservative?
They are actually, but politics never came up in my family.
Okay, so so he's just saying, yeah, his parents just, okay.
Trump became president. They did not influence me to be a conservative.
But there were 2 years in between, you know, Trump being inaugurated in 2017, and then if it was like late or mid 2018, about a year and a half of Trump being in office, running headlines, a lot of big things happening. Are you sure none of that and their commentary at the dinner table maybe didn't influence?
No, I remember 2016 election. They didn't say a thing about who they wanted.
That's hard. That's hard.
I know. I'm telling you, it just didn't come up. And obviously, this country's way more political
Didn't come up.
now than it was 10 years ago. But I'm telling you, I just became a conservative.
My bro, you are a child. What do you mean this?
No. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. First of all, child is a bit demeaning, but like, don't do that now. That's not nice. The sort of argument of you are a child. No, generally children don't change. This kind of idea of like, oh, children, they'll when they grow up. No, if children are morons, they'll generally be morons in adulthood. Generally, very very young children. It depends how moronic, you know. It depends, you know, if it's like just a few comments here and there, or if it's just kind of full on, like, you know, like I was around a child once that like was actually like full on violent, but was violent to people who probably shouldn't have been. I just gotta say, if that child ever gets involved in any like illegal activity, they're probably going to die, because at the end of the day, if you're violent towards people who could beat you to a senseless pulp, don't be. Because if you can't fight them, then inherently people are just gonna go, well, why are you antagonizing them then?
It became more political now than it was 10 years ago.
Sorry, not antagonizing them, actually attacking them.
What does that even mean? Bro, how did you adopt the politics?
I'm just saying, you know.
And the politics understanding of like a 70-year-old person. How did that happen? You're like 18 years old and you're talking like one of those dumbasses who's like, well, I voted for Ronald Reagan and Barack Obama. What do you mean it wasn't political, bro? He's talking about 9/11 and the fucking war on terror. Fuck you mean it wasn't political? Well, I guess he wasn't even alive back then, so.
Based off my own research.
Our whole entire family is very much on the left, like Democratic, liberal, but my mom, she was not, and she
Democrats are not necessarily liberals. I'm just gonna put that out there, shocker, but yeah, they're not really liberals at the end of the day. The Democratic Party, well, they're definitely not left wing anyway. They're even if they claim to be, even though I'm not sure they claim to be even at that, you know, like they have some people in them who are, you know, left wing. But obviously that's what happens when you have a party. It's like, okay, we want to make sure we can get some of the the socialist voters. Okay, so we'll invite a few people in. Yeah, well, that's and the problem with that, of course, is that at the end of the day, all that does is just makes it so that you have a system in which people just think, oh yeah, they're left wing. It's like, okay, no, not. And that's a real problem in America, where you basically got two right wing parties. As I said, the one that burns your arm, or the one that slices into your arm.
Republican, but I don't think think she knows a damn thing about what that means. But like, she.
Shots fired.
Right. But there was a lot of tension, a lot whenever we would talk about certain political things that I would bring up. And then my brother, he's very right-leaning. One day I like came home.
He's a fascist, isn't he?
And they were going through like a journal of mine that was like just of like my liberal views and like.
What?
Black Lives Matter, stuff like that. And then I realized that in that moment I was like on the same page, and I don't think we ever are going to be.
Like, I'm gonna have a physical reaction to this video right now.
So they're arguing moderates at the solution.
Struggling to write anything? You and every other professional on the planet. Enter Quillbot. We made it easy to craft an email.
Please.
Pretty straightforward. This country functions best when.
I mean, neither liberals or I'm not saying liberals are necessarily left wing. I mean, not all of them they are, but moderates. I think moderates are the only ones who are going to agree with that. You know, like conservatives are going to be like, yeah, no, moderates are the answer. That's just admitting you're wrong, though. You know,
when people from all different walks of life, all different political ideologies.
You could not sound more like some sort of like a posh person who would be a conservative, but they feel for the people, so they're moderate instead. So great stuff, centrist, fantastic, yeah. You'll do great stuff there, so you fucking will. As in, fuck all.
These are able to come together for a greater cause. I believe that the two-party system is a trap. I believe that political parties as a concept are antithetical to democracy.
Yeah, I
mean, I think that's an interesting discussion. It seems like they cut him out there, to be honest. Like, 2 lines, this is a bit like, in the next one, it's just like, and then they roll off. Like, at times, sometimes they do weird things here. They want editing to do. Some shows do this. Very weird. It's kind of rude, and it makes certain people feel, it makes you feel, certain ways where people are like, oh, that seems like a bit rude, and you realize, oh, wait, no, actually, on reflection, that person actually may not have been rude, and actually was just the editor, was just like, okay, slice here and slice here. Anyway, all I'm saying is, yeah, I think the two-party system in America is like, very bad. Now, ultimately, it's always very hard to not have a two-party system or develop one, because, you oftentimes, for example, in my country, you often have like parties like Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and those are the two big parties. And they basically just fought for government every single year, and you had other parties that would have seats, and a lot more seats than you would have in America, obviously. But it's kind of like England. Like England basically has a two-party system, even though it doesn't officially, though. Like it has Liberal Democrats do win some seats, but also
completely agree with you, and I also just want to add that I think both parties are a lot more radical.
Bro, he said based one party solution. You know what I mean? Like China. He said the two party system is a trap. There should be one party. You know what I mean? Like China. Just the communist, just the CCP that fucking dominates, okay? Or the Communist Party in Cuba. And you can have different party members from different political worldviews and ideologies within the party, but it's the one party, baby.
Yeah, no, I have to disagree with him when he says political parties are ethical democracy. I think, now, the definition of democracy, I would say, is if you've got direct democracy or indirect democracy, or like representative democracy. Representative democracy, you kind of have to have parties, because otherwise you're going to have people who are going to scam the system. But if you've got direct democracy, it's a little bit more like, yeah, no, you don't necessarily need parties there.
What do you mean? Yeah, I'm joking, man. I'm making a joke.
Than they used to be, and I think moderates are helping bridge that gap in between.
Okay, fuck off if you think the Democrats are like radical and left. It's just like, yeah, the Democrats always trying to pass the bills, nationalizing stuff and giving rights to workers, all the time. You can never stop them from doing that. It's, that's the Democrats for you, always on the side of the worker. Never on the side of free market economics. Oh wait, no, what was that? Oh yeah, no, they're not actually. They're just sort of like, yeah, we'll sort of let unions exist, but also not really give them much power, and also all this other stuff here, which is completely anti-Catholic to any sort of left-wing belief. So yeah.
You're an absolute idiot. Yeah, I'm the idiot.
And kind of showing that, you know, you
In fairness, they may be talking about the person in the video. That's always an issue with streaming React streams, where it's like, well, you're an absolute idiot. Like, that could be someone being like, oh, that person in the video is an absolute idiot. Which, you know, in fairness, it would take longer to type. I realize I'm just promoting laziness, but, you know.
can agree with both parties, which can help, especially in, you know, Senate and House of Representatives, to come up with better policies and to come up with better laws that help our people instead of, you know, the bickering that we see among our politicians right now.
Once again, though, the Democrats and Republicans are both right wing, so at the end of the day, what policies are they going to come up with? Like, they're just like, oh no, that's not right wing enough for us, the Republicans would say, and the Democrats would say that's a bit too far right wing if it's a Republican thing, you know? And that's basically the argument. So, what would you want? It's like if you're arguing that, then you're not a moderate. You're just like a conservative, you know? Because the Republican Party is more right wing than conservatives are, and the Democratic Party is, you know, conservative to kind of like right centrist. So like to say moderate would be you'd say centrist, so you'd be basically a Democrat. So in essence, or maybe even more left wing than a Democrat actually. So if you're saying you're actually just you're just the middle option, then you're just a conservative, effectively speaking. Like that's concerning.
I just think the problem in America is that we don't.
Like that's the misunderstanding in America, where it's like, oh yeah, oh no, the Republican Party are right wing, they're conservatives. It's like, no, the Republican Party aren't conservatives, they're like fascists. Now at least.
Enough political parties. We only have two. That's the problem. It makes us so divided that we have to pick between the left or the right.
Yeah. Also,
it's just strange because, like, I never see moderates being like, "Hey, man, I think we should be more leftist." Actually, I just only see them go further and further to the right, especially in a country like America that's already like inherently slanted towards the right. I wonder why.
Also, I hate this notion that it's always like what's in the middle that's right. I think really we should be looking at whether it's right or not necessarily based upon the fact whether it's right or whether it's left or whether it's in the middle. It should be based upon the arguments. It should be based upon the rationalization.
I love your take on that, but nothing can really ever be right, because what's right to one person is not going to be right to the next.
I mean, you can look.
So that's a moderate saying moderates are not the solution. I guess they're right. Moderates aren't the solution. I would agree with them, but then I'm not a moderate. I'm especially not an American moderate because I'm not a conservative. Because I don't, you know, love rich people. You know. For no reason. You know. I'm not saying I think every single rich person should die. I'm just saying I'm not inherently gonna love you just because you're rich. You know? I'm just saying, like, just because you're rich is not gonna make me just like you instantly, but it will inherently make a conservative like you.
Look ideologically at both, and I can say, well, this is this and this is this, but who's to say which is correct? Which is
well, ethically speaking, being left wing is kind of correct. Although you could argue, you know, that it's not necessarily left wing is correct, but it's like if you're a conservative, you're definitely not right when it comes to ethics. Like, definitely not right. No offense meant. This is not a political issue. Like, doesn't even think that this is politics. It's not. You are either a stupid, you know, or evil, or a selfish person. If you are a conservative. If you're a fascist, you are evil. Okay? Let's just get down to the facts. That's a fact. And now, obviously, if we want to change up our definitions of ethical, then fine. Okay. If we've changed the definition, maybe we'll change it then. But with our current definitions of being ethical, yeah, being conservative is not being ethical. You're not an ethical person if you're a conservative. So, you know, I'm just saying.
Which is why the problem of parties, I think, can't really be solved.
That's such a funny take from a conservative, dude. It's like, so what's up? Are you saying that conservatives are incorrect? Why are you making it seem like who's to say who's correct and who's incorrect? And then you turn around and you're always like, but the Democrats are incorrect and the conservatives are correct. So why are you saying that? What is this like weird dance around the issues here? We know what you believe. You're wearing a fucking Joe Brandon t-shirt, bro. You're wearing a fucking I did that t-shirt. I'm 14 and this is deep, the video.
By breaking the binary. It's something that is ingrained into us as humans to be team members.
Once again, I have to disagree with people who think that young people are not as capable as adults. I think young people are just as capable as adults. The only problem is that's not actually a compliment to young people. That's an insult to adults. I'm saying is you didn't become more competent, actually. You just reaffirmed your beliefs or changed your beliefs and reaffirmed those ones, you know? Like, that's sort of the point. You didn't think, oh, you may have changed. But at the end of the day, you're still as ignorant as you always were. You're still as stupid as you always were. By the way, if you're watching this video, that's not you. I'm just saying, some people. Not everyone. I'm just saying, like, for the people who you're saying, oh, that's a stupid thing to say, oh, that's just someone who's a child. No, it's not because they're a child. It's because they're a stupid person. And they'll be stupid when they're adults, too. Especially if they're 14. 14 is a fairly old age. I mean, it depends now if you're asking them or if it's their own, like, inside voice. Because I think, you know, when you're 14, you know, some 14-year-olds will be, like, they'll be less likely to, like, share their stuff.
Members to be
you know, because they'll fear backlash.
Competitive.
Which works in both ways. Them being a fascist and also them being left-wing.
Is what we are, even when it comes to representing ourselves, leading ourselves, and attempting to better ourselves. So,
okay, attempting to better yourself. Okay, well, what happens if someone pushes you down? Is that person a bad person for pushing you down? What if that person is not a person? It's the government, and the reason for them pushing you down is because of the color of your skin. Is that not a racist government? I would think that would be a racist government. You know?
Having more teams isn't going to fix that.
Well, why not just
teams or teens? Okay, it's coming up as teens for me, but teams for San. Okay, that's interesting. Jubilee probably has their transcribes in, and this is the thing. Okay, so teams. Okay, yeah, I know. I think that's bullshit though. Teams are actually necessary because that's the whole point. It's because you want to find your unless you, as your man said, which I don't think necessarily is accurate. You know, abolish political parties and only have independents. Then no, you do need to have more than two options. It's like, oh yes, you could choose fascists who want to be in power, and fascists who also want to be in power, but weren't able to join fascist number team 1, so they had to have a different one so they could have the chance of getting in power as well. Okay, I'd rather choose more left. No. There's no left thing. I mean, there is, but don't worry. We don't allow them to really gain any seats. They don't have any seats really. We do have actually. We have conservative. You know. Isn't that nice? Well, it's a bit more it's a bit more fascist than conservative. But you know, it's still there's candidates there. Most of them are not that likely to win anyway. But you know, some of them might win with your vote. Yeah, you know, that sort of thing. Like, no, that will be a team sort of situation. You know, but it still wouldn't like make it democracy. That wouldn't be democracy. If you have a choice between basically the same thing, just maybe someone who's a little bit more than the other.
The political party.
Like, what would you say if you were conservative in America and there was like a communist party and a socialist party, and that was all there was? That was all there was. There was just a communist party and a socialist party. No other parties. You know, if you're conservative, you're like, well, how is that fair? How come when I vote for someone, I get my vote just dies? You know. And yeah, it wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be democracy. You know? But this is the point. Like, you have to flip it on its head. Imagine that two parties in power are very left-wing instead of being very right-wing. You know?
Just to achieve, you know, the ability of people to cooperate with each other. Because
holy fuck, is this kid like a direct democracy anarchist? What is happening right now? Is he I was just memeing around.
Now come on, direct democracy is better. Like it is more successful inherently, and citizens tend to be a little bit happier in their government because, well, it's just sort of not really a government in that. It's just caretakers, really. You're just voting directly, you know.
Around about like the fucking two-party system is broken, which I agree, it is fundamentally flawed.
Yeah, it is.
But this guy literally is like, no, individual direct democracy, every single thing, including zoning laws, but also like literally what the fucking comptroller has to do on a daily basis needs to be democratized. Every part of the government needs to be fucking run on direct participatory democracy.
Okay. Okay. What is going on here? Keep your content protected. Okay, this is one of those. This is one of those scams.
As George Washington warned of political partisanship.
George Washington was a slave owner. Just to make you aware. I've already intimated to you the danger of the parties in the state. Okay.
In his farewell address, he wasn't saying we need more parties. He was saying we need no parties because these political parties force people to believe a certain way just so that they can fit in with their fellow party members.
Well, Thanos snapping away the party system isn't going to get rid of ideological teamsmanship. We are all...
Yes, well, I think you'll find conservatives have a little bit of disagreeers. You've got, like, people who aren't out-and-out fascists, who vote for the Republican Party because they want their very right-wing economic views. Like, who are opposed to, like, student loan debt forgiveness, who are opposed to even what the Democrats have to bring to the table. And that's very right-wing. That's you have to be very right-wing to vote, Republican over Democrat for economic stuff. Like, very right-wing. Like, you must even go, even the Republicans aren't even as right-wing economically as you want, because they're so close together, the Democrats and the Republicans, when it comes to economics. The one thing they're not so close on is, like, bigots. Democrats are still very racist, but they're less so. Although, I mean, no offense, man, but, like, the Republicans are, like, out and out fascist almost, like, the ones that are in power almost. So, like, it wouldn't be that hard. It's like, oh, yes, you called people like that the N-word, and then, oh, you like to actively torture. Okay, yeah, you would be more racist. Yeah. Still, though, you're both racist, though. It's just you're more so. You know, it's that kind of thing. It's like, obviously, people conservatives do disagree within themselves, but that they if you had another party that was right wing, wouldn't you like that? There was basically a middle option, which apparently is kind of a moderate. Like, it's kind of weird sort of thing of like, oh yes, we're moderates, so we're basically just conservatives. The conservatives are just fascists, basically, to libertarians, maybe, possibly. They could be libertarians, for instance.
Always going to have these issues, and every person, whether they've got a D or an R next to their name, they're going to get, or I say, hey, are you pro or anti-abortion? Okay, get into this. Are you pro or anti-gun? Okay, get into this. You might see some of these groups slightly different, but in the scheme of things.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if I say I'm pro-abortion, but also, pro-gun, I wouldn't fit into the same group as, like, Ron DeSantis, I wouldn't fit in the same group as that, would I? Like, they would be literally pushing for legislation which is directly against my beliefs, but they would also be pushing against legislation which is for my beliefs. So at the end of the day, wouldn't I like to vote for a different candidate who's not Ron, who is on my side for all my beliefs, Which in a country of over 300 million people, you're going to find.
Things, we're still going to have these teams, even if we have it split up into a million different parties like some of these parliaments and other countries do. What do those parties do when they need to get something done? They form blocs, they form coalitions, which is based.
Yeah, and then when there's a document that one party disagrees with, they go, well, no, we're not supporting you there.
Basically, just reducing it back to the binary.
No, it's not reducing back to the binary at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, when you want to form a government and you form a bloc, you don't have a binary if like 10 parties don't get into government, but 5 do. And those 10 disagree. Because they don't need to form a bloc. Because what's the fucking point? They don't have a majority. If you don't have a majority, there's not much point in forming a bloc. Because, like, what's that going to do? Now you have to force a vote along the biggest party line. But also, you don't get what you want because you're not in government. And neither are they.
We are still going to have these binary teams because that is just the way humans work.
So you think politics should embrace the
No, it's not. It's the way you work.
binaries?
Yeah, but a multi-party system directly indicates that coalitions have to work with one another, and therefore more political perspectives are at least adequately represented. He's not wrong about like coalition building being a necessity. Of course, that's how it works. But like that coalition oftentimes is supposed to get like make demands and get demands.
Yeah.
So if you truly are a
like if you're party and you're saying, okay, well, if you don't vote for this the way we want to, then we will not support you, and which could collapse the government theoretically. You know, if you start to, and this is to the point, because this the whole, and I don't really like the idea of party whips necessarily. I'm so it's complicated there, but
a believer in democracy, like theoretical democracy, like you fucking believe that it's a real thing and has happened or could potentially happen, then yeah, you should definitely absolutely be an advocate for the parliamentary system.
Well, but the whole point of what you were saying about how you should make decisions based on individual policy ideas, like are you pro-choice?
Are these teens or are they like more than teens?
Are you pro-life?
God damn, dude. Now I understand why fucking all the juicers make fun of us, dude. Is this what my audience looks like at parties? Like, what the fuck's going on? Y'all a bunch of nerds, dude. Holy shit. Never talk about this stuff at parties, okay? Never. Don't do it.
Well, if parties are eliminated, people will actually be forced to do research on the politicians who believe in ideas that are
No, you're wrong there. Human beings are incredibly lazy creatures. Incredibly. Now, some cases, this laziness can actually drive them forward. Very rarely, but some cases. Like, for example, doing a task that you're good at. Obviously, this is not what humans have developed into. But back in the day, the idea that was developed was you had a human who would basically do a single task. Now, the task might involve doing a lot of miniature tasks. But let's say it was a shoemaker. You'd make the shoes. You wouldn't go off and do other jobs. You'd make the shoes. That's what you would do. And the whole point is that's what you do. Now, the whole point with this is, if you're in this position, and human beings are inherently lazy, they will not bother doing that. They'll just go for the person who is, they like as a person. I've seen this before. I've seen elections. I've been close to elections when it comes to young people. And at the end of the day, they vote for who they like. The person. Not if they're a good politician, not if they have the policies you support. I, in fact, have seen people go up for election that have, directly, absolutely have the different policies than the people that voted for them. But at the end of the day, they really just sort of, they just sort of get in, and that's it. It's a popularity context most of the time. That is the issue though with that. But one of the things though with that idea of like, you one person does a single job, it's also the idea of like politicians should be doing, like a politician should be moving from a banking job or anything like that into politics. It should be politics is your job because that's what you're best at. Unfortunately, that's not what politicians do. Generally, it's for the power or because for the money, for the connections that you'll be able to build. Or to advance your own interests, which you're not supposed to do, but politicians do, of course, and all these sort of things. It's generally not because you're best at being a politician. It's because of what you want to do, what you want to get. Which is not great.
Closest to theirs.
Either left or even right. They kind of just slap a label on it, and I feel like moderates do a lot of their own research because they don't necessarily agree with one side. So every problem.
Once again, though, the America doesn't have really a left. Like, the Democrats aren't left, so at the end of the day, you can't argue, oh, they're moderates. They're not moderates, really, though, are they? Like, they're moderates between right and right. So, like, for the umpteenth time, then they're just conservatives.
Problem that comes up, they have to go and do their own research about it to figure out what side they agree with or what opinion. I do think that sometimes having different groups provide conversation, and if we were all the same thing,
The audio is a bit...
it's not necessarily, we're not going to have any
I'm just saying,
progress.
just in case you're wondering, the audio, that's not me, that I'm hearing that too.
Neither Trump nor Biden were good presidents.
I'd say agree.
My family benefited from a lot of President.
The fucking free thinkers on the right, by the way. Remember, the individual big brain free thinkers on the fucking conservative right. Like, you look at liberals, they all are like in unison. They're like, nah, neither of them are good. Okay? Neither of them are good.
In fairness, if you're left wing, Biden is a very right wing fella, like a very right wing fella. Like, he's not so right wing that like he's, you know, like he was like Liz Truss, trickle down economics is bullshit, and that's right, you know, that's correct. But it's not a left wing belief, really, and that's the thing. He's not so right wing that he's completely brain dead. Don't. But you know, you know what I mean? Like, he's still right wing. So if you're on the left, then obviously it's not exactly fair to be like, oh well, look, you know, we're free thinkers. We're able to accept when someone's wrong. No, actually, he's just right wing. So he's still against your beliefs. You know.
The moderates are like, they're not fucking centrist enough, so there's something fundamentally brain broken about them for that reason.
A lot of men could care less which soap they use.
I fucking hate companies like this. Like, I actually hate these companies.
But men who do care about their health and skin use Doc.
No, they fucking don't.
But
men are brain dead use doctors. Fucking disgusting. You know, like these fucking companies. You know, don't buy any of those products, by the way, just to make you aware.
Then the right wingers are like, nah, brother, that right there is a perfect demonstration of why Republicans still win elections despite having less support overall within the population. That's it. You're seeing it. It's a microcosm of that exact same thing that happens at a much larger scale every fucking election cycle. Republicans are running objectively worse, more violent, more brutal fucking candidates year over year.
Yeah.
Their rhetoric gets more and more violent, more and more psychotic, more and more anti-poor and anti-marginalized year over year.
True.
And their fucking fan base is still like, nah.
I think it might have taken, like, an increase possibly because, you know, before it was like, oh no, your supporters knew you were a racist little piece of shit. But now you have to say the slurs in open. Now you have to say the rhetoric in open because your supporters might think that you're not a fascist, and well, that would completely trash your campaign, like. So you need to be open about it. Yeah. So that's what I think it may increase because, you know, they increasingly want to show their supporters. Yeah, well, they were definitely this way, you know, just to ensure their fascist supporters are voting for them.
Nah, dog. I bleed red. Better red than dead, but better Republican red, not fucking communist, obviously.
Trump's policies, but basically what I felt was that.
Is this how a libtard chat looks like? Bro, if you want to know what a libtard chat looks like, watch me chat your fucking mom last night, okay? That's right, dude. She loved it. She's a libtard too now, baby.
A president needs to be presidential, and
Not
for
your best.
President
Shut the
Biden,
fuck up!
I just think that personally he's too old to be president. I do think there needs to be a cutoff.
Okay, now, I do think this is ageist. Just saying. I think it is ageist to say, oh, there needs to be a cutoff point. It sounds like you're like some sort of like eugenics person. Like, there needs to be a cutoff. At some point, we have to just, you know, take Brandon. It's like, no. I don't think that you need to do it with age. You need to do it with some behavior. But no. I think when it comes to elections, maybe you do want to have a. It's an argument though, because I know people who are like who are in their 80s, and it's like they're perfectly suitable to be a leader. But then I also have seen people who are in their 80s who are not. But the thing is, age-wise, I've seen people who are in their like 60s who aren't really suitable. So it's not really an age thing. It's more different stuff. It's very, it's very unsavory to act that. But
When someone can be president.
Yeah, young people are heavily unrepresented within our country. The average age of an American is around
of course
37 years old, whereas people in Congress are generally above the age of 50 on average. So when people kind of point at Biden to be very old, Trump's also extremely...
Well, no offense meant, but like that is part of the party system though. That's part of the thing of like, oh, if you're a very good boy and you do all your homework, well then guess what's going to happen? You'll get promoted within the party. And obviously if you're rich, you get fast track, but So basically if you want to have young people, they're generally going to be just rich people, which is bad, Yeah, that's my point. As inherently, like the youngest people, like Cawthorn, very young fella, in comparison to the rest of it. But at the end of the day, he was like, there was a reason for that. There's a reason for that, and that's sort of the point. If you're rich, you get fast tracked. If you were an ordinary person, you'd have to work your way slowly up. So yeah, that's the point though. I've seen people. I've seen people who are part of the party in like even in England, right? There was the Labour Party before, not Starmer. He's obviously not. He got fast tracked as well. But you know what I mean. But like previously the Labour Party was in the party in the 70s, right? The 70s. It's been like 40 years from decline to leader. So I'm just saying, inherently, well, it was 40 years rather. He's not leader anymore, obviously. But I'm just saying, like, inherently you do have to be careful with the attitude of like, oh yeah, well, we have any, well, yeah, but like, there is a reason why these things are the case, and it's that at the end of the day, parties do like to make sure that they are putting forward the right candidate. So they will either put forward the rich candidate who can pay them money, or they're going to put forward the candidate which they have, sweltered in the fires for a long time. That's just sort of a fact there.
Extremely old too. So if we want to put some type of age limit on that side, I think that they're both way too old to be president, and obviously we need a lot more representation for younger people.
Neither of them seem to have been particularly popular even within their own parties, Trump to a lesser extent.
Well, Trump was extremely popular amongst his party, whereas Biden has actually lost a lot of that popularity throughout time.
I mean, Trump is extremely popular among his party because everyone who opposed him was either fired or resigned, so, just saying, like, that's what's gonna happen. It's, now everyone's like, hey, it's popular in his own party. If you ignore all the people who were against him that resigned and were fired after he took power, if the leader, but if by the way, if you're leading the party, you will have a load of people who will be fake supporting you because they don't want to be kicked down themselves.
I think there were a lot of things on both the Republican and Democratic side in which these particular figures led to.
Because the thing, no, like Biden is not known for as much of the kind of like a really like petty streak of like, if you push against him, he will fuck you over when it comes to the party. Biden's not known for that. Trump is. Trump is well known for like being very petty, like extremely so.
Like a larger amount of polarization amongst the public.
I don't like Trump because of a lot of the racist things that he has said.
Mm-hmm. True.
If you're out making...
What's with the hand?
Jokes about...
Oh, no.
What's with the hand? You're proving you're an idiot if you're trying to argue that Trump isn't racist.
Literally by the China...
You're proving beyond a doubt you're an idiot if you think Trump isn't racist.
I mean, like, explain to me how he was racist.
Joe Biden has a much stricter racist history than Donald Trump ever has. And
for fuck's sake, man. First of all, didn't let them finish. So, yes, Biden has a much longer... But explain to me, buddy, how Trump wasn't racist. Because, yeah, I can admit to you right here and now, Biden was a racist piece of shit. He probably is a racist piece of shit right now. Unless he's died. In which case, rest in peace. But, I'm recording this video a while before I'll be publishing it. But, that's just the point, though.
As in my opinion.
Oh my God, he's not wrong though.
Never will have.
Yeah,
During the 2019 presidential cycle, Joe Biden said, if you even...
Okay, here's the issue that I have with people like Chandler, okay? Where they're like, oh man, Joe Biden is more racist than Donald Trump. Like, first of all, maybe. I mean, Joe Biden definitely did more racist shit in the 90s than Donald Trump did because
in fairness, he was in power.
Joe Biden had more power as a
See on the boys. But he's right.
Senator than Donald Trump did. But we're talking about Donald Trump, who literally fucking took out an ad against the Central Park Five, demanding that they get executed. Okay. So
yeah, and also, what was it like? He on his shows, he liked to divide people up based on race, like that. Just saying, like, for the power he had, he was very racist. For the power Biden had, also very racist. In fact, you could almost argue that, Biden was less racist for the amount of power he had, in comparison to Trump. But, debatable. Also, how much you can get away with is obviously a lot more when you're a politician than when you're just, like, someone who can be, like, literally fired very easily. Just, like, because they're not even fired. It's just, oh, sorry, no, viewers didn't really like the whole racist shit you were doing, so your program's no longer making the bucks it needs to.
So, like, within the limit...
You do have times when shows get cancelled because literally actors and people involved refuse to take a pay cut. Like, and when I say, I don't mean like, I mean like high people. When a studio comes to someone who's kind of famous or like, they're paying a lot of money to, and they say, okay, we can't continue making your show unless we make some budget cuts. And we can't really make budget cuts to other people because they're basically making minimum wage. But the thing is, your contract is very big. So how about you take a little cut, and we can continue making the show. And sometimes they go, no, because I can get it elsewhere. It's kind of ironic.
Limited circle that he had, him and his father also denied black people housing.
Yeah.
And were investigated by the federal courts for that reason. Like, within the small earldom that Donald Trump had, within the space he occupied, he definitely was as racist as he possibly could be, right? Both are pretty racist. We can admit that, I think. Yeah. It's fine. Maybe Joe Biden had a much larger impact on the black population in America as a consequence of being the senator that also, was the architect of the crime bill. I think given the opportunity, Trump would have been just as, if not even more racist, honestly, than Joe Biden was. It's just that he had not
In fairness,
had the
I think
opportunity
Trump
yet.
Is,
and when he did become...
Trump is a lot more like, as I said, petty and more like, more likely to do something that's cruel anyway. So like, with Biden, it's like, he's cruel directly at people because of the color of their skin or because of their nationality. With Trump, it's like, he's cruel to begin with. So his racism would almost be kind of worse because what he's doing is almost worse, if you know what I mean, in a way. Although Biden did do a lot of really, really awful
the president,
stuff.
we saw how he was operating. It's not like we don't know how Donald Trump would be if he was in a position of power. We saw how fucking awful he was. Yeah. Ultimately, it shouldn't be up to the fucking individual words that these people have said. It shouldn't be microaggressions. It shouldn't be macroaggressions or just straight up racist shit that these people say. They are quite literally enacting white supremacist policies. That should be enough for people to recognize that politicians are racist. But no, you have to also see the seasoning. You're so aesthetics prone as liberals that you need some kind of like immediate shape, color, size, something that you consider to be tangible.
Make birthdays brilliant with Moonpig. With a huge range of cards, including bespoke Irish designs, it's easy.
Think about voting for anybody other than me. You ain't black. And when I learned about the atrocities at the...
What the fuck?
That you need some kind of like immediate shape, color, size, something that you consider to be tangible.
Think about voting for anybody other than me. You ain't black. And when I learned about the atrocities that the Democrat Party had done, not just to the world and to America, but to my race specifically, it told me something that I could never, in my opinion, be a Democrat. And
yeah,
you are a thick Egypt then. Okay, you just are a thick Egypt then. You just are. No offense meant, but you just are. If you were conservative and you're like, I can't vote Democrat, I don't vote at all, or I vote like, some other party, like a third party, yeah, then I'd be able to go like, okay, yeah. But if you're supporting the Republican Party and you can admit the Democrats are racist, like you're not like, nah, that won't, no, then you just are an Egypt. You just are an Egypt. Like the Republicans are literally the fascists of America, basically. Like journeying more and more to fascism, and they have some outright fascists, supporting them and in them.
That's why I joined the party that literally runs on racial agitated propaganda that black people are inherently violent. That's why I did that, because I was so open-minded. Like, what is that argument, man? You're like, Democrats were so racist that I decided to join the true racists.
it would take a lot to even vote for one. And on top of that, back in the 80s, he was responsible for, as he said, wrote the dang bill, the Clinton crime bill, which was responsible for throwing a lot of people.
Like, this is true.
Yeah.
How the fuck do you look at that and then turn around and just avoid the past 10 years of, like, Republicans literally...
It's really weird. Like, yeah, he's right. Like, Hasan. Like, it's really weird to watch them and like, oh, yeah, this was awful. This was really racist, which it was. The Democrats are super racist. And then go, oh... That's why I vote Republican, because they cause they're known for being racist. Everyone in the world knows them for being racist.
Literally, first of all,
well, not everyone,
the 80s and 90s. First of all, he's talking about the 90s. He's talking about Bill Clinton, not the 80s. He's talking about the 90s. What led to Bill Clinton and passing the crime control bill, or the crime bill, that Joe Biden actually fucking authored and was the architect of? The Willie Horton ad. Who put that ad out there? What sparked the most racist backlash towards black people that led to the Democratic Party's incessant need to fucking cave and concede to white supremacists and literally become the champion of white supremacist causes like the criminal justice system, championing the criminal justice system and its white supremacist roots and making that permanent? Who did that? Who was pushing the racial agitated propaganda on the right? It was the Republicans. Yeah. Shut the fuck up. It's so stupid. These people literally act like the crime bill was like Democrats going, I'm racist and I want to do racist shit, okay? Like,
well, that kind of was.
Like, yeah, there are a lot of racist Democrats. Joe Biden.
There are.
Biden is one of them. He definitely did a lot of racist shit. But let's not act like the Republicans were ever literally stating like, hold on now, we should be nice to black people.
Yeah,
no, they have been weaponizing the white supremacist criminal justice system while denying that institutional or systemic racism exists in perpetuity since the beginning of fucking time. Shut the fuck up.
That look like us in prison. This guy is weird.
I mean, within your statement,
broad brushstrokes over conservatism don't float. Why not? Are there conservatives who fucking recognize that systemic racism exists? Because I've yet to meet one. Ultimately, they will reduce it back to culture because they're pussies. Or maybe there's an easier explanation, and that is poverty, okay? Socioeconomic circumstances that people are brought up in. Because when you look at black, white, doesn't matter. When you look at fucking poverty, you see violent crimes, okay? That's how this works.
Also, no offense, man, but you tend to see more violence when it comes from rich people. Except when it comes to arrests and imprisonment, then you see the spring up in poverty. And that's the difference. See, with rich people, they are more likely to be freed or not even go to trial, or not even be arrested in many cases. Or even be like, even come in contact with a police officer, or even come in contact with someone who's questioning if they'll call the police. Literally, the chances of being in prison because you're poor versus you being rich are like so much more if you're poor, because at the end of the day, I know people. I don't like them, I know people who've like I know someone who shoplifted before. Like they stole stuff from someone's shop and they were stopped. Guess what? They were allowed to go. I know someone else who wasn't white, who they actually called them. I believe they called the police. You know, that's in my country. So yeah, you know, I'm not sure if they called the police or if they brought them into the back and like gave them a talking to. But at the end of the day, they did treat them differently. You know, they did have the official thing rather than just like don't do that again kind of thing. That's the thing, like, you know. That's just my point.
This works. It doesn't matter. It's truly colorblind, really, if you think about it. That's the one area where it is legitimately colorblind. The only difference is, of course, false. I love when motherfuckers say false to that. You're just self-reporting. You've seen false information and faulty data. If you say that it is not nearly identical across across the boundaries of socioeconomic factors, you're basically saying you went on 4chan and someone duped you into believing that, like, rich black people do more crime than rich white people or some shit. Or poor white people even. I've heard that as well. That's just a gigantic self-report that you're not only wrong.
Jeez, Yeah. But that was the issue, though, of like saying, oh, you do more crime. Okay, well, even if that was the case against statistics, which it's not, like, it wouldn't make much sense anyway, because, like, yeah, because of the color of your skin, you're more likely to be reported, you know? And if you're reported, that goes down as a crime. If you're rich, or even if you're just white, even in some cases even though I did say obviously because you're poor, you're more likely to, but even if you're just white, because of the racism, you are less likely, even if you're white and poor, to be reported. So at the end of the day, if you're not reported, if someone says, I'll give you a chance, second chance, third chance, fourth chance, whatever it may be, then in that instance, obviously, your little crime is not going to go reported. The person who wasn't white, their crime is going to go reported, which is obviously going to fuck with the statistics, you know. And that's another thing, of course, you know.
Wrong, but you're too stupid and so biased that you would believe in fucking, you know, faulty data.
Because it's faulty data.
Trendy furniture for incredibly low prices.
Oh my god.
And free home delivery.
God almighty. You know, you have to wonder about these things. Like,
I mean, you didn't necessarily acknowledge any of the racist history in relation to Trump as well. So if we're only going to put eyes on like either Trump or Biden, I see that not necessarily to be like the most consistent framework for looking at this.
Of course, and I understand why you say that, but she didn't actually provide any examples of a history. She provided a media mismanagement of what he said in 2015/16, talking about immigration. But every time Trump tries to talk about this, they call him a racist and a xenophobe.
I come from
Jesus fucking Christ, like
a family that is of immigrants. My grandparents don't speak English, and they are from Mexico. And a lot of the time, people were bashing Trump for that being a racist thing. He's trying to keep them out, but he's only trying to keep the criminal individual.
Okay, yeah. This is the problem, and this is my problem with, like, there. As I said before, there are some conservatives who are, you know, intelligent. They're evil, but they're intelligent. There are some Republican Party supporters who are, you know, they're intelligent, but they're also evil. So, you know, well, that's not great. But if you're actively saying, oh, they're only trying to keep the criminal, okay, that's just wrong, though. If you say, build a wall, yeah, okay, so will all the non-criminals just, like, phase through it? Is that what's gonna happen? Oh, will ladders magically appear for you if you haven't committed a crime? If your intent is not to commit a crime? Is that what occurs? I didn't know that. Wow, it's great to be informed about that. Oh wait, no, because that's bullshit. Oh yeah.
Individuals such as.
Yo, she said Mexico sending rapists, girl. What the fuck are you talking about? What is this? I'm a moderate on Trump's immigration policies. As a Mexican American, first generation, I'm a moderate on Trump's, immigration policies. What that means is I think only half the children should be separated from their parents, okay?
Yeah.
Just half, you know what I mean? That's That's what I'm for. That's what I'm in favor of. I'm a moderate. That's awesome.
Drug lords or people sending drugs to.
I hate to break it to you, but drug lords are not coming to America and being arrested. Very few drug lords get arrested. Because that's the whole fucking point. They're drug lords. If a drug lord comes to my country, they're getting the penthouse suite in some massive Dublin hotel, or just full on buying an apartment that's mega. That costs you like 50 million. I'm exaggerating, although never know property prices they're going up. So, but you know what I mean. Like this is the kind of thing. Like no, drug lords. If drug lords come to America, they're going to go and they're going to stay in Trump fucking tower. Is the thing. They're going to be giving Trump money, and he's going to be inviting him in to meet him. Like that's just the thing. To be honest now, you need people selling drugs. So even if that was the case, like it wouldn't make much. Like it's there to stop the drug lords who don't go that way. By the way, for people to find out, just for information, most drugs come in via the sea border, not the land border. So that makes Trump's Mexican policy completely pointless because it doesn't stop drugs at all.
Country.
At the same time, though.
Yeah, well, as I said, though, like that's the whole point, though. Like, if it comes in by sea, then yeah, we'll build walls around the sea then, because, that's where they come in. That's where the majority of the drugs come in to America. Just as they do in my country, that only landlocked countries will have drugs coming in over land, and even then, in a lot of cases, it'll be through the air. So.
No, it's sort of like
because you can police the land. If you wanted to, you could stop all drugs if they're coming in by the land, because you could literally just have a man and a woman, or like at every single. You could just have someone at every single spot with a gun and just shoot every single person you had to cross. Oh wait, you couldn't do that for port, because that is where people come in. You couldn't do that at all the islets and all the little areas where you can bring a little boat in, all the little caves, all those things, because you'd have to be in the water then, and then you need, you know what I mean? Like to do that, you'd have to have a boat at every like 10 meters around the country, which would be impossible.
You used to say that the immigration policies are just keeping the bad people out, because at the same time it's almost impossible for most people to emigrate to the United States legally.
Billionaires can solve problems better than.
Alright, so share your answer. So the idea is, so it's when they say interactive, they mean like. So billionaires can solve problems better than the government. Okay. If you think that, you are an idiot.
Yes! Yes! Let's go, dude. Yeah, Elon Musk running the country like fucking Twitter. Donald Trump running the country like Elon Musk runs Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Whoo!
Capitalism will always be more superior than the public sector in almost.
Oh my fucking god. This fella is an idiot.
Like 90% of things.
Nathan, you're a fucking moron.
In this country. Billionaires have, obviously.
Listen, bro,
billionaires, okay, are just people with money. Okay? If I, hack a bank and steal £1 billion, I would be a billionaire. Does that make me a better runner of a country than the government? Just because I took wealth from people. Because that's what billionaires do, you fucking moron. That's what billionaires do. They take wealth from you. Unless you're a multi-millionaire, then you are losing out because of the existence of billionaires. That's just sort of a fact. So how about you fuck off, you idiot, because guess what, Nathan? You are an absolute fool. Like, seriously. Anyone who thinks, oh, billionaires can only go to better than the government, we're like, no, that's just false.
DuPont.
Like, what do you want to do? Have the billionaires sack the government reserves, hand it to themselves? Because that's what they'll fucking do if you give them the chance.
Chemical was fucking straight up dumping unimaginable amounts of toxic chemicals into water supplies, killing all natural water supply in a region. I was saying to myself, let's fucking go. The government can't dump toxic waste like this. Okay, do you understand? The government can't come near this shit, dog. I want Teflon directly ingrained into my fucking existence.
Yeah.
Okay? Holy shit. Could you imagine? Could you imagine, dude?
They have a lot of money. But what I see is that billionaires are using their money for philanthropy. They don't want to pay taxes.
Oh my god, you're a fucking idiot. You really are a fucking idiot. You really are a fucking idiot. Once again, as I said before, conservatives can be intelligent but evil. This fella is not. He's just not. It's a shame, but he's just not really, intelligent, really, is he now? It's just a bit stupid, you know. A bit thick in the head. Like, come on. Fucking Christ. Oh my god. Like, okay, let's break this down. Billionaire philanthropy. Okay, so billionaires actually tend to donate less or around 5% of the money they give to charity, and that generally is how much actually gets given to charitable efforts. Okay, so now that's 5% of the small amount they give. Okay, so 5% when you give, typically speaking, you tend to have to give 100% of control over to the charity when it comes to your money. Okay, like for example, I actually donated 100% of my bank balance before at the end of a period, because I said, I have the remaining amount and I'm gonna give the rest of it to charity. Guess what? I did not have power to control the amount of money and then take 5% of that and that part only give to charity. That's not what happened. Now, of course, you could argue charities in themselves can be problematic, and I don't think charities necessarily should exist. Not all of them, obviously. Some of them should, but not all of them. Like, there shouldn't need to be a homeless charity. The government should be supplying housing anyway. There shouldn't be a need for that. But there is a need for that. So I'm not saying they should be abolished now, obviously, because the government's not doing fuck all. The government's doing fuck all. So if the government's going to do nothing, well then yeah, have a charity deal with it. It's not the best option. The government is the best option, but that's my point. Inherently, so that's 5% there. Now that 5% generally goes into benefiting their investments. So for example, if you've got, for example, Bill Gates is not well known for investing in things like having training workers up so that they can work on farms. Oh, would you look at that? Looks like he's got some nice investments in the companies they'll be working for. So yeah, billionaires give money to charity for their own benefit, so that they don't have to be taxed. Big shocker. But yeah, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, also, can I just say this? But if you're a billionaire and you want to have homelessness, well, just build properties then. But I don't see building properties. But buddy, the richest people in the world have like the top 10 richest people have, I believe, over $1 trillion. So if that's the case, why don't they just solve these problems? Because they could. They could, They could do that, but they won't. They just won't.
I see that because they just feel like if the government takes their money, they're not going to do good with the money. A great example would be Amazon. I mean,
and they
has revolutionized the way we shop.
No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't really. It's centralized the way we shop, if that's what you mean. But you could argue that's just a market online. It's a market. It's a marketplace. So that's just basically said, okay, before when we had like high streets online. Okay, now we're gonna take it to another level by copying all these other people who also have marketplaces. Amazon wasn't the first, so first of all, it hasn't revolutionized the way we shop. There have been previous ones before it. They just weren't as successful because they didn't have daddy's money and mummy's money funding it. Oh, just look at that. So, you know, that's the thing. So it hasn't revolutionized the way we shop. It has become the standard for the way we shop.
I think the key word.
Yeah, dude. It really did. Amazon invented this concept called whipping the living shit out of your fucking workers in your
Now, in fairness to your man, it would still technically, obviously his point doesn't hold up because of other reasons, but even if Amazon didn't exploit its workers, didn't exploit the people on its platform, which it very much does, interestingly, some of the stuff that my stuff runs through did come from Amazon. I'm gonna admit that now, which is the problem ultimately when it comes to a consumer. When a consumer doesn't have the extra money to spend, what do? Do they buy from the exploiter, or do they just say no, I won't buy. I'll die instead. It's when you can't afford to buy your fair trade, stuff. Well, I would argue the coffee growers are squeezed so much that you could keep prices the way they are and still make a healthy profit. So, and pay them their wage, because the massive profit margin there. But anyway, that's getting to the point. I'm just saying, like, inherently, just because the work is being exploited are not necessarily, that's what his point would be. His point would still stand up there. Wasn't off of the fact that like if prices on Amazon were just much dearer, but of course his point is wrong because it hasn't revolutionized something, because it's just become the standard. It's become the standard marketplace. It's become the standard place to shop. That's not really anything. That that can be done
distribution
through
facility. So much so that the turnover rate is so fucking high that it's literally running out of people to abuse. Okay, it's so everywhere, and the level of turnover is so fucking high that they don't have new employees coming in that they could fucking abuse. It's so sick, dude. They did this really fucking crazy thing called time off task, where they've basically turned human beings into fucking robots, even though they're not. And they've revolutionized it. Oh, God, Americans are fucking worse, dude.
In the prompt is billionaires can, affect positive change better than the government.
By the way, this is yet another instance.
Yeah. And you're a moderate, are you? As I said, he's moderate for Americans, not for the rest of the world.
We're like fucking annoying little moderates, siding with the conservatives on right-wing shit.
Oh, sorry.
Because
not the rest of the world. Obviously, there are other countries that have a 1 to 2 party system that is fascist. Like China, for example, has a very fascist party.
In America, you are a right-winger. Your automatic position in a lot of instances is going.
I don't know how you could be moderate in China because there's only one party. I guess you could be like a rough sort of like rough point,
is going to be super, super slanted towards the right.
I don't think it's a guarantee that they will, because I think there are certain instances of billionaires doing good with their money, but then there are also, I know you mentioned Jeff.
But like you say, billionaires can solve problems, but well, that's but like no, like if your argument is if they had good sentiment, if they actually use their money. But then you can use an argument for the government. The government oftentimes, the American government brings in like trillions, like that, much more than billionaires. Well, arguments, like much more than an individual. And like I guess you could argue billionaires as a whole, like all of them collectively, maybe, because obviously 99% of the wealth in 1% of the hands is not, that's the sort of thing there. But like, I guess they would have more money collectively than the government. But, I'm just saying, at the end of the day, an individual billionaire doesn't have as much money as an individual government.
Jeff Bezos, but he
Also, you say solve problems better, not they can solve problems. Because, yeah, billionaires, if they actually wanted to, could solve problems. But they couldn't solve them better because, well, there's only so good you can get.
also
Being rich because you got it from exploitation rather than taxing people is not really, like, does not make you better with that money. That money's not going to suddenly be, you know, come on. Also, like, at the end of the day, you're still going to be in the position you're going to be paying someone to solve the problem. So I don't see how the billionaire would be better. Like, whose pocket it's coming from? Well, you know. So who does the actual job?
Often doesn't use his money for good because there are
Time off task allows us to see when lazy workers aren't working, spend a day in an Amazon fulfillment center, and then talk about the company. Do you think, hey guys?
Wait, what? Alone. Yeah. I know this might come as a shock, but have every little bit of wealth you have stripped from you. Be landed with, let's say, 50 grand of debt, and be employed at the lowest level of Amazon fulfillment center, where you have absolutely no connections, no one you know in there, no one who thinks you know someone higher up. Just be the exploited worker, and then we'll see how quickly your mind then keeps on that. And if you're a particularly right-wing person, you know what? You'll probably still have that idea. Because, you know, you watch the media. That's
Workers aren't working, spend a day in an Amazon fulfillment center, and then talk about the company. Do you think, hey guys, do you think this chatter knows? Lemma, not true at all. I'm a manager at Amazon. Oh, brother. Do you think?
They're a manager. See, there it is. There it is. A manager. Fucking Christ, I knew someone like that before. They weren't a manager themselves, but they had a relative who was a manager. Like, just like, come on. You know. Surely you know. Like, surely you know. I was like actively like, oh, what the? Either this person isn't able to understand like 2 steps forward, or else they literally just don't want to see 2 steps forward because they can understand that, you know, I'm not sure if they were a worker, an actual like worker, in which case they clearly can't see 2 steps forward, or else they were a manager, in which case pretty they probably wouldn't be able to see because they're a manager. Come on, managers have relatively good lives at Amazon.
Chatter knows that he is surrounded by motherfuckers that have donated to the Amazon labor union, that has interviewed Chris Smalls. I wonder if he has any idea. Do we know the conditions in a distribution facility? I mean, I would never know that. Please, I would love to hear from the manager about the working conditions that the actual fucking wage laborers go through. Yeah, let me hear more from the fucking boss man's dog. If you had any decency and self-awareness, you would recognize that you are in a similar predicament to the fucking workers that you're considering lazy, but your entire job and your efficiency in your job revolves around making sure that, you know, people are whipped adequately. Just because you're holding the whip doesn't change the position that you're currently in.
Yeah, because as I said, you know, relatively is carrying a lot of word there. Like it does depend. Like managers are to some extent exploited too, but obviously not as much as you know.
Yeah.
Generally are.
I'm just letting you know. Get back to work. I used to be a tier 3 employee, supervisor level, and these motherfuckers are the biggest goddamn bootlickers. They fire people over 2 extra minute bathroom break once in an entire 10-hour shift. Holy fuck, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude is definitely memeing. There's no fucking shot a dude that's been following me since 2019 is like behaving this way.
Many reports of Amazon employees.
Yeah, like 2019. It's not like, you know, Hasan is just like, oh, Amazon, yeah. Oh, I've never discussed that before. It's like, no, I think somehow Hasan's probably discussed Amazon in the last, you know, few years. unless a person like accidentally followed him and then like just like was like, whoa, what's this? Who did I follow here? Okay, I'll just click on, and this is the first time they've actually watched the stream. You know, highly unlikely, but you know,
is being mistreated, denied breaks, and
Yes.
you know, issues where it's like, come on, you have all that money. Do you need like so much more from like cutting corners like that?
These billionaires can do fantastic things, but I also understand
fuck
that
off,
government
Chandler, you are an idiot.
regulations, taxes, and
Okay, you understand? Okay, this
these
is good.
billionaires can do fantastic things, but I also understand that government regulations, taxes, and various other things occupy their time. I don't.
Okay, no, fuck it. Fucking never mind, Chandler. I thought Chandler was going on a good round there. He's like, I do understand these things are important. You know, we can't just be like, you know, just sort of, just letting them do what they like, because obviously, you know, they cut corners now to as much as legally possible. If they were doing the actual jobs of running the country, I think maybe pretty soon your country would be, you know, wrecked. Because the whole point, billionaires are there to get more wealth.
I don't believe billionaires should be heavily taxed. I believe the tax cuts we had in
Fuck off, Chandler. You're an idiot. Seriously. Like, seriously. Like, do people not understand? Do you want a road? Because either you can pay for it via taxation, or you can pay for it directly. Now, the thing is, the government, not always, but the government sometimes, if it's actually truly left wing government, builds the road themselves. Other times they get a private company to do it. In that case, it's basically pointless. I agree with you there. But you know, when the government actually build a road, right, it means that you basically get an instance where the road is not built for profit. Even when it's built by private companies, it's built for a single level of profit. It's built for profit for the single location. It's not built for continuous income. It's not built or like, you know, or you know, a rental basis. It's not built so that, oh, you can't go on the road because you didn't pay your ticket, you know. Or you can't go on the road because you didn't pay it. Like, if you don't pay, you know, tax, right, you're still allowed on the road, you know? If you don't have money. Like, if you don't make enough money to be taxed. Because they understand you don't have the ability to pay for it, you know? So why should you? If you're being squeezed. Now, if there was a billionaire, you would have to pay for it. You know? Like, billionaires inherently are gonna charge you for that. So like, how stupid are you? You know, like, I hear some libertarians, right, and they hear, okay, you know, some of them are not completely stupid. They're not, but like, it's when you get down to the whole taxation thing, and you're just like, okay, but and some of them are like, oh, the community would build a road. I would argue, dodgy. I wouldn't necessarily rely on the community, just, you know, because they've done other things. But you know, at least you've got libertarians who can say, oh, the community. At least that's an argument. But it's a very stupid argument when you're just like, oh, no, private enterprise will do it. I'm sorry, what? Private enterprise will do it? But private enterprise is inherently there to make a profit. You know? So, well, you're going to pay more. Which is not a better system, is it?
2018 were some of the best things we saw for our economy.
Dude, what do you mean? That didn't impact you. You're 18 years old. You are not a fucking you're not in the top tax bracket, brother. You're not a corporation, and you're.
In fairness, maybe he's like, we don't know. Maybe Chandler like got like a bunch of money from like a relative and is actually a billionaire, and like has investments and a load of stuff. We don't know. You know, maybe he is.
Not in the fucking top marginal tax rate. Your parents might be, but you yourself are not. Okay, and financially speaking, you're probably not going to reach that level, and the fucking tax bracket that your parents are statistically more likely to be in has already gotten a tax increase that was built into the same fucking tax cuts. These people are so stupid, dude. Holy fucking shit. It's crazy to me that you could be 16 years old and be like, dude, oh my God, the Trump tax cuts were incredible. They were so beneficial to the economy. Yeah, totally, dude. Totally. It was so fucking good. It was so sick. Oh, they are 16. That's crazy. Okay.
I completely would agree with you that we shouldn't be taxing billionaires at such a high rate. If you tax billionaires, they would respond by increasing the prices of goods and services.
First of all, you're taxing the billionaires, not the companies. So billionaires should have no ability to increase the price of goods and services. They're not the company, so you know that wouldn't even make any sense, even if it was like a company. And now the thing is, companies, right, sometimes do this where they go, okay, we're gonna, like some companies do this, most don't, where they go, okay, we're gonna cut a very fine line, so we're gonna make a very small profit margin, but because we sell so many goods, we'll have a lot of profit. But then you go, okay, well, why not reduce the profit line even further? You know, until a tax increase. Also, this doesn't work for corporations because corporation gets taxed. Corporation will get taxed on their profits, not on their revenue. So it doesn't really matter. You know, tax increase is not really going to affect them when it comes to their day-to-day business because it's a profit. Yeah, take a profit cut. It's a profit. It's not a revenue cut. You know. So basically that doesn't work for companies, which is probably why he said billionaires. You know, because you know, billionaires obviously, you know, they have to do thing, but obviously, you know, if you ignore all the tax evasion billionaires do, sorry, tax avoidance. Tax evasion is illegal. Tax avoidance is not. Yeah, I mean tax avoidance. If you ignore all the tax avoidance billionaires do, and so do YouTubers. Just gonna put that out there. YouTubers are like they do tax avoidance all the time. Then if you ignore that, then why exactly would they be adding to the price of goods and services? Because surely they're not a company. You know, only companies should be able to go, well, our costs have gone up. But of course, companies can't say the costs have gone up if it's just a tax increase, because tax increases are based on profits. Anyway,
I think
that's crazy. Like, can you imagine the disdain you have for your fellow working class members? Fantasizing about a position that you will maybe one day be in the future, and openly admitting that billionaires have the economy in a fucking stranglehold. Homie just said billionaires have a gun to the head of the American economy, okay? And that's precisely why we shouldn't tax them, even though...
yeah, that's a good point, actually. It's like fear-mongering taxes. Like, no, we can't attack them because if we do, they'll use their power to increase the price of goods and services, lads. Like, I'm on your side, but like, if we do this, they'll hurt us so much. We could arrest them.
The goods that we are creating so that they can accumulate profit off of our labor is also being done on top of the infrastructure that we and our taxes have paid for. That's crazy. This is something I'll never understand. People will literally be like, yo, dude, if we tax the billionaires, they will fucking leave. First of all, statistically speaking, that's not true. That has not happened. And
Well,
that's precisely
possibly,
why.
you know, that's sort of thing there. Yeah, it's kind of a thing there, though. It's like, you know, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to like, oh, billionaires, they'll just leave. Like, stop them from leaving.
First of all, statistically speaking, that's not true. Dude, if we tax the billionaires, they will fucking leave. First of all,
yeah, like that. As I said, that's not really like it. Even if it was not statistically, even if it was statistically the case, you could just introduce legislation where you're just like, oh, you can't leave. You know, like if you've got over a certain level of wealth, you can't leave the country until you like get approval, and then boom. Then when you use tax policy, then when the billionaire goes to leave, you can't leave. You haven't got approval. You've just broken the law. We have to arrest you now. And we have to sack all your wealth. You know. I wrote a story about that before. I'm not saying necessarily you should do that. I'm just saying that that is a policy that will. It's effectively a threat to billionaires. You don't have to actually enforce it. That's authoritarianism inherently. You know, people would argue. But you know. Yeah.
Physically speaking, that's not true. That has not happened, and that's precisely why even in a country like Norway, there are a higher number of billionaires per capita than the United States of America. Okay? So that's number one. So the top marginal tax rate doesn't actually get billionaires to fucking leave.
I mean, I think that's probably also more... no, I don't think it's fair, though. Because in America, America's a lot more like... There's a lot more acquisitions. There's a lot more like... it's a lot harder to get that level of wealth. So obviously, because you've got billionaires still sucking you dry, though. So it means there's more people to suck dry, and there's more people in the world to suck dry. Because America is obviously there's a lot more people to like take from because they're in a global market. So, you know, when you have like people who are owners or shareholders in like global companies, obviously they're benefiting from the sucking dry of other countries as well. So inherently, it means that American billionaires are overall wealthier, though. So sure, there is more billionaires per capita in Norway, but there's more like wealth for all the billionaires if you collectively squash all the billionaires' wealth into one big chunk. And you compare that, if you squash all the wealth of the Norwegian billionaires in one chunk, and you compare that to capita, there'd probably be more as well. But as I said, when it comes down to billionaires, tend to be a lot more successful though in America as well. Anyway,
if that was the case, you wouldn't have any fucking billionaires or millionaires living in California that has the highest fucking state income tax, and yet,
True.
Well,
in fairness, that's because they can commit tax avoidance. So, like if billionaires can commit tax avoidance schemes, then obviously they're going to live where they like to live, because they don't have to care about the income tax, because it doesn't really affect them. So that I'm just saying, the thing with Norway and the thing with California, they're both ways in which you could argue it's not really a thing of like, oh, high tax rates. It's also, a thing of that there. Anyway.
Literally be like, yo, dude, if we tax the billionaires, they will fucking leave. First of all, statistically speaking, that's not true. That has not happened. And that's precisely why, even in a country like Norway, there are a higher number of billionaires per capita than the United States of America. Okay? So that's number one. So the top marginal tax rate doesn't actually get billionaires to fucking leave. Highest fucking state income tax. And yet, there's an $80 billion budget surplus now in the aftermath of COVID in the state of California because no one fucking moved. They stayed here, and they're just paying their fucking taxes in spite of all the goddamn, loopholes that they take advantage of. Number one.
Yeah, but that's sort of my point, though. Like, if you have loopholes, it doesn't really matter. You can have a tax rate, as I said, of like 90%. You could say you are not allowed to earn any money. You must give every single scrap of your money over to the government, 100%. 100%. If you've got tax loopholes, then it doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, officially it's 100%. Although all the billionaires know full well the true tax rate is 0. So it doesn't really matter. Like, what are you gonna suddenly choose not to live somewhere just because officially they have a high tax rate? Like, in what situation are you gonna go, no, because officially they have a high tax rate? What's the true tax rate? What's the tax rate I have to pay? 0%. No, it's like it's bullshit. Like.
The idea that we can't tax billionaires more is such a profoundly silly idea. I cannot comprehend why you would say it. You're not a billionaire. You're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, you are an idiot if you don't think you can tax billionaires more. I'm not saying you should arrest billionaires if they're trying to leave. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying if you wanted to, you could do that. I'm just saying if you want to get money, actually, I'm just going to address this to begin with. Billionaires shouldn't exist. At all as a thing, because inherently it is a flawed thing. It is a flawed thing. And like, are you something like that? No.
Okay. Like, ultimately, you should literally.
If you're a billionaire, you are being stolen from. That's what they're doing. They're stealing from you, amongst other people.
Say the most normal thing, which is billionaires should be paying a percentage of their yearly income, their yearly revenue.
But see, that's not my argument. My argument is billionaires shouldn't exist. So, like, you don't go, oh, instead of going like, oh yeah, the billionaires, they should pay their fair share. It's more like, oh no, the billionaires, they should just not exist.
Revenue that they're generating for themselves that is adequate and similar to how much I'm paying. Because right now this kid's not working, okay? His parents are, but
you don't know that. You don't know that.
His parents are paying a percentage of their yearly income. The amount of money that they make, they're paying a percentage of that, okay? There's a tax rate. There's an effective tax rate that they're paying. Billionaires' effective tax rate is like 0.1% if you look at someone like Warren Buffett. Your parents are like at the minimum 30%. That's crazy. You're defending that unjustifiable system. Why? Because a lot of their fucking wealth is tied up to their assets. Okay, your parents might have some wealth that's tied to their assets, but if they can't fucking pay the tax bill at the end of the year, okay, they're going to have to liquidate some of that. Billionaires should be able to do that as well. They are not in a separate bracket. They're not these gods, even though we want to treat them like that. Can confirm I'll make 100K and pay 28% before.
Like, the thing is, right, is this weird concept of like, oh yeah, well, why not? Like, if someone has more money, then well, I don't also like, to a certain extent, I think millionaires should be allowed, you know, because there's certain leeway, like, you know, like,
Four credits,
you would
about
just
50%
go,
after. I have the opt.
as in, you wouldn't want to go, oh, just because someone has, it's just because you want a society in which is equal, it doesn't mean you should necessarily have everyone having luxuries. You know, you do want to punish people who do bad things. So, you know, that kind of thing. Like, you would have a certain amount of asset stripping that you do to bad people, you know. So that would be like a punishment. And that would obviously result in, you know, a certain, you'd have to distribute a little bit more. So we'll say our cap is 10 million. Okay, that's roughly, you know, or maybe, you know, 100 million. You know, we can go up and down, whatever the case may be. But then at the end of the day, the average, if you average out all the money, is around 200, like 150 to 200 grand plus, possibly more, if you think about all the like fake, basically printed money almost situations in which like the value goes up because you say people are interested. That's just fraud. But you're effectively printing money by saying, oh, people are interested. So, are you willing to pay this much? I am. Are you actually paying this much? No, you're not. You know. So anyway, but anyway, the point is, at the end of the day, that this is when you do that, it's just sort of like, well, why isn't everyone worth 200 grand? And worth, keep in mind, not making 200 grand, worth 200 grand, as in after every single bill, they have 200 grand.
Optimal 2 kids.
Trendy furniture for incredibly low prices.
Oh my god almighty, like, some of these bloody companies that advertise on YouTube, like, these aren't the worst, by the way, I'm just saying, like, but, like, you know.
And free home delivery. VitaXL.
Like, just.
The reason why everything is so expensive is inflation. But in the past, when inflation was low, there were times where things were very expensive. And that is because of the fact that we have high corporate tax rates in some states.
That's bullshit.
Yes.
Okay, let's break down corporation tax for you, you fucking idiot. Corporation tax is based off of profits. So, let me explain this to you. If they increase their profits, they should be paying more tax, you know? I know people who run businesses. And guess what? If they don't make a profit in a year, they don't pay any tax for the corporation. Because the corporation didn't make a profit. You understand? So, if the cost of production goes up, they actually pay less tax because they made less profit. Unless, of course, they increase the price. In which case they make more profit. Like, I don't see how exactly, like, oh yeah, we'll cut the tax on corporations. The thing that makes them spend money, makes them not make as much money, encourages them to, instead of just holding money, instead spending it on stuff. It's a flawed system. It means that they can get around it using tax loopholes. But, you know, avoiding the idea of like, oh, well, you know, corporations can just use tax loopholes to basically just avoid tax themselves. But avoiding that, just looking at the fact of like, at the end of the day, if you are a business, why would you be encouraged to put the price down if your profit will increase? You know? Like, first of all, your profit is going to increase, but also it's going to go, your tax bill is actually going to go down, meaning that you're just going to, okay, well, why not increase the prices even further? Because now we can also, you know, increase it this year. And this is the thing. Like, I think what maybe they mean VAT. Like, in my country, you pay VAT. And obviously that a corporation can't technically speaking. They can't. That isn't on profit. That's on a particular product. That would increase the price of a product, but corporation tax doesn't increase prices because a business that's making no money is not going to pay any corporation tax, and a business making a lot of money is also not going to pay any corporation tax. It's the ones in the middle that pay the corporation tax, or not really in the middle, more like in the start to middle.
So
dude, it's like you literally just said if we increase taxes, they'll hurt us, and then you said high corporate tax rate is the reason why things are expensive. Okay, did things get cheaper? It's so weird how it doesn't work the other way. Trump actually reduced the fucking corporate tax rate. Did shit get cheaper? No. So why did that happen? That's weird. That's really interesting that you said that because, all these tax cuts and things actually haven't gotten cheaper. As a matter of fact, they got way more expensive. That's so weird.
Yeah.
What the fuck's that about? Interesting.
Respectfully disagree with the...
Respectfully? Don't be respectful. He's a fucking idiot, like. I mean, I hate to be a moron, but, like, he's just a fucking idiot, like. Just is. Like, let's be honest here. Just is. Anyway.
The idea that taxing billionaires, or specifically leaving billionaires untaxed, is beneficial to the American economy because
Let's go.
Most prosperous
an actual moderate guy. Oh god, he's definitely like one of those dudes who has a sock in their fucking Twitter account.
Era for the American economy was the 1950s.
He's like one of those like weird fucking I'm a social democrat, but I'm actually a neoliberal Andes. Oh my god.
50s, the post-war economic miracle. That was when billionaires
were
being taxed at a rate of 90%. And this isn't socialism or anything. This was under American capitalism, under a Republican president, Dwight Eisenhower.
And this was right after a fantastic, I hate to say fantastic war, but it was a fantastic war for...
My God. Wow, buddy. Wow. That's... Wow. Showing your colors.
Least bloodthirsty conservative, dog. He said it was right after a fantastic war. Just the greatest, dude. War is so good for our economy.
Jesus
Holy
Christ,
fuck.
like,
Yikes.
I have to say, what kind of a fucking idiot is like, well, that was then, now, now we're richer because we were the one waging the wars on other countries. Yeah, you're richer now, America, as a country. Individual people are fucking not, though.
Thanks, dude.
For us, in which we got so much American pride, and that Republican president Dwight D.
It was the American pride that fucking geared our economy, and not the fact that the country was like basically.
Wait, I thought he was gonna make the argument of because the Americans stole a lot of weapons and stuff, that that made them a fuck ton of money. But like seriously, he's gonna argue because the war brought American pride, so that meant that the economy was helped. No, actually, that makes very little sense.
Singularly united as a fucking war economy to generate goods and services, and then in the immediate aftermath was not actually impacted in the same way that fucking Europe was as a consequence of its geopolitical proximity.
The Eisenhower then utilized that money that he taxed from those billionaires to create a great system, which is the...
Wait, he said it's patriotic to tax billionaires 90%, so why not get back to that level of patriotism?
Yeah.
I agree. I think it is patriotic.
I don't think you should let them have the money at all, to be honest. I mean, I don't think we should there. Oh, let's just tax them. Well, let's just abolish them. Say you can't have over this amount of money. You can't do that. Now, I don't think necessarily that wouldn't go down well with them. So let's say inheritance tax. You say, okay, everything above 100 million gets taxed 100%. Effectively saying, you can't leave more than 100 million. At all.
I think it is fucking fantastic. I think
Tax
it's
them when they
patriotic. Do your due diligence, to do your patriotic duty, to fucking pay 90%.
As the Americans call it, a death tax. It's like, yeah, and I'm not fucking paying it. Like, if I'm an American, I'm not paying the inheritance tax. That kicks in when you've got, like, a mega money. You're like, that's the death tax. Yeah, for rich people. You know? It's tax on rich people when they die. Also, most of them avoid it anyway, so, you know. They put their money into, like, trusts and the like, and then, oh, look at that. Looks like the judges are in charge of the trust. Oh.
Top marginal tax rate. Straight up. I agree.
We don't insure against. We insure for.
Oh my god, wow. Zurich. Like,
For fresh starts.
I actively think...
The interstate system, which is a fantastic thing that connects our country. But unfortunately, the government isn't really investing money in things like that anymore. It's investing...
That's not true. I mean, the government...
Yeah, well, buddy... First of all, so tax people and maybe they'll have more money. And also, they are investing in stuff.
Would try to do that, but, you know, the guy that tried to do that a little bit, you call a fucking socialist. Socialist communist to the left of Lenin. You know what I mean?
I mean, the government does that in my country, but guess what it does? What it does is it gives it to private contractors, which basically makes the entire fucking thing pointless. You know?
And he's not even, like, doing all that. He just wants to spend a little bit of money on infrastructure, and everybody lost their shit.
Money and weird programs and things that the average American isn't going to benefit from.
That depends what you mean by average American, buddy, because the average American does benefit in absolutely no way from the existence of billionaires. Like, no way. Even millionaires. The average American doesn't even benefit from, like at least 10% of the country. Now, obviously, does depend where that 10% comes from, because, you know, it's mostly rich people, you know. So, and people who, like, are, you know, kind of, sort of rich, but, like, not in their own right. Like, they're like, just rich people's friends, I guess, and, like, the children of rich people, you know, that kind of thing. Basically, my point is, at the end of the day, is that, yeah, like, the world can do without rich people. I mean, maybe if they burnt all their money, not so much, but, like, you know, because of their money returned into the system. You know, the point is they've got power when they're alive.
So billionaires do have a lot of money and a lot of influence in order to do good within our economy, but nowhere near the ability of the government. We're talking...
I don't think it's not really the ability of the government, it's just they're not going to do it. Because inherently, if you are still a billionaire, and, like, so let's say we'll give you 2 years after inheritance. 2 years after that, you know, you're still a billionaire. Okay, but shouldn't you be in that way? Like, if you're gonna do something about it, you know. But of course, people don't.
Talking about billions of dollars, the government has access to trillions of dollars.
Don't say it, Parker. Don't even give him that. Fuck the
federal
billionaires.
Scale, like yearly speaking. Yeah, in some circumstances, like Mark Cuban, they absolutely can do those things.
No!
It doesn't anywhere near
No such
compare to
thing,
the level of
Parker.
access of healthcare that they do have in these other countries.
And it doesn't compare to the damage that will happen to the average American when the government decides to pull trillions of dollars out of nowhere, because we have to remind ourselves the government makes nothing. The government takes from every single citizen state.
And what do the billionaires do? What do they make? Because last I checked, Jeff Bezos does not make, package, and ship every single Amazon product. Last time I checked, he wasn't doing that. That was a mix of robotics, automation, algorithms, and people. Many people. So, to put it this way, basically speaking, if I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, But billionaires do nothing either. They make nothing, you know. And if you fucking tell me, oh, you know, they supply the service of management. No, they fucking don't. Most CEOs, for information, actually harm their company. Of course, at the end of the day, when you've got a massive corporation, yeah, how much you harm it tends to be, you know, negated by how big of a company it is.
And standing in this room that pays taxes each and every day, including state governments and federal governments, they start throwing trillions at random things like, I don't know, healthcare for everybody, which can work for a country that's the size of maybe South Carolina, but will not work for the size of our.
Okay, you fucking Egypt. Okay, my God, boy, do you not understand how money work? Okay, so the thing is, right, America is not Russia. It is an incredibly populated area. It doesn't have, it's not like, oh, it's a massive country, but there aren't really enough people to, like, sow the land and everything, you know. It's not like that. Even Russia's a very populated country at the end of the day. Like, there's, like, it's not like countries that are, you know, got a very small amount of people for its landmass, you know. Like, my country, it's, you know, all those kind of things. It's one of those things where it's like, well, no, it's not that kind of country. It's a country with more people and more money. So a lot of the money actually comes from taking from other countries. So, you know, well, maybe you should give it back. Like the British should also give their money that they stole back. But, you know, they're never going to. But anyway, the point I'm making ultimately is that, yeah, okay, so if it's $5 billion for a country the size of South Carolina, well then expand it because you've got more money. Okay, do you need more doctors, more nurses? You know? Okay, so expand that. You got the people. You know? Like, how thick are you?
Our country.
Yeah, I would say that's because our government actually like mismanages money comparative to other nations. We spend a lot in terms of our per capita on healthcare, like more than other countries, yet they actually have better health outcomes and they cover more people. So I do think there are lots of things that the United States could do better comparative to other countries. We can learn a lot more from those other countries.
What's interesting is the kind of positioning, like red is just like, it's really interesting in America, the way the Republican Party went right wing, but like it went very right wing. Like it's kind of like libertarian sort of fascist conservative sort of mix, you know. A lot of fascists in the party. Like I'd call it like socially fascist, you know, some economic liberals, and not liberals, sorry, libertarians, and some economic conservatives, but you know, sort of a mix there. But you know the way it's just sort of like people who are considered like people are called left wing and you know put in the like the blue thing.
Countries. And yet we don't do that because of this idea of American exceptionalism.
When you were talking about like how it's much easier to like manage like a country.
None of them pay taxes. Yeah, it is kind of funny to have a bunch of dudes who've never paid taxes.
In fairness, some of them may have paid tax. I mean, I did know people who had like cars in school. Like I didn't. But they had like their own car. But a bunch of them had no tax because they didn't want to pay the tax. I don't think they were taxed or insured, so it was a fairly cheap thing for them. But they were breaking the law, so you know.
Just talk about it, but you know, whatever.
Country that's smaller, that's completely true. Like whatever the national government doesn't.
What? No.
What are you talking about?
It's not like economy scale. What is this? This is like super basic stuff. Am I misunderstanding what she's saying? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like literally, look at China, man. Like China is right there. It is an example that you can use to literally undermine every single argument that like dumb Americans try to fucking throw at you and be like, oh well, you know, the size of a nation matters. That's why Norway they're able to do it.
Okay, I mean. Of course, the argument you could argue is, you know, if you think the Soviet Union was communist, then explain that. Now, I don't really think the Soviet Union was communist in a real sense. Well, maybe, you know, definitely not Marxist. You know, just sort of not, you know, really true to every letter. But you know, the point is, if you're an American and you think that the Soviet Union was a communist country, well then, Slovenia is fucking massive, like, and it has a lot less people, in comparison to its like geographical size, than America does. Like America's got is it like the third biggest population on the planet, but its country size is, smaller than a lot of these things. Basically, my point is like it's that at the end of the day, size of the country, it doesn't exactly matter.
They're homogenous, which is bullshit. That's like a complete fucking nonsensical position. Because like half of those fucking countries are not homogenous in the way that they claim America is too diverse or whatever, including China, including but not limited to China. Of course, the people that make that homogeny argument are also racist, so they think China, and they don't think diversity. They think they're all Asian.
Well, in fairness, the Chinese government are not too prone to having certain people of the diversity situation, are they now? With their concentration camps. God almighty.
What do you mean? There's different kinds of Asian? I thought they were all Chinese.
Okay, what even? Come
on. You have to stop the 16-year-olds don't pay taxes meme. At the minimum, they pay sales tax and may have part-time jobs where they pay normal taxes. This is the biggest justification to allowing them to vote. I mean, dude, I don't give a fuck. I'm down to allow them to vote. That way, like, maybe people will participate more by the time they're 18. I think it is better for 16-year-olds to vote, despite how fucking stupid they are, than 85-year-olds to vote, because the 85-year-old 100% does not have a good brain, okay?
The thing is, right, is that this is kind of the idea of like, and I know it's hard for someone in the media to tell their audience it's a high chance at least some of you will be incredibly stupid but won't realize it. Like, I know I'm not a particularly intelligent person, right? But the thing is that at the end of the day, I could very well have the same intelligence as someone who thinks they're intelligent. Now, they of course might have intelligence in areas like vastly more than I do. They may be far better at those kind of things, and that kind of almost tricks them into thinking these things. Very similar to some of the people in this, like this fella. You hear a bit from him as well. This kind of, I did my own research sort of thing. That sort of thing. It's a sign, really, of you thinking you're more intelligent than you are. At the end of the day, I think a lot of people are kind of stupid. So I don't think necessarily, kids are stupid. It's like, no. Those kids are stupid. And they'll be stupid when they're adults, too. So, yeah.
And it's also more beneficial for leftist politics in general. So I am actually, unironically, an advocate for lowering the age of voting and also limiting the age of voting at the same time. Hasan, you look so hot right now in that color green. I would let you hold me at gunpoint. Bible thump 100. Okay. That person should not be allowed to vote.
Well, you wouldn't say that if you were, had a massive ego and wanted to become the president of America, and then, they were saying they were going to vote for you. Because, that kind of thing. It's just sort of thing. But anyway, the point, though, really, when it comes down to this, is that I think at the end of the day, this is one of the things in which you're like, okay, but, it's just a bit...
really affect me. And that's why, for me, I'm a very strong participant in my own local government. Because you can, actively go there and talk about, what you want things to budget. And it allows you to actually see tangible effects.
The Supreme Court is out.
Yo, this person...
So, the Supreme Court is out of touch. Now, I think this is not necessarily true, depending on what you mean by out of touch. Because they are certainly in touch with the little homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic, racist little pricks who are Americans. I'm not saying all Americans are that way. I'm saying a lot of Republican voters are. So they're in touch with them. So at the end of the day, you could argue, well, they're in touch. Just, the same way Mussolini was in touch with his people. Well, not actually no, because Mussolini kind of basically had a dictatorship in which he, some people basically hung him. So, not a good example actually. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to say basically, the Supreme Court is, it's not like it's completely undemocratic. All of the countries against it. It's like there's a significant enough chunk of the country that's like, I don't know, that they agree with them. So yeah.
The Supreme Court is full of older people, which is why I just feel like if we were to bring some newer, fresher justices in.
I thought she was standing. I didn't realize she was actually sitting down for this. She actually has a good take on this, at least. Also, why do only 2 people fucking sit down? Oh my God, and they're moderates too.
In there, they would understand what we're seeing more. Because as an older person, yeah, you can do your research, but you won't experience things the way that we're experiencing them at this moment.
I think it's more also because they're rich, actually. Like, fairly rich, It's like, you're not going to experience your heating going off. You're not going to experience starving almost to death. You're not going to experience that at the end of the day, are you? So,
Yeah, I agree. And also, the original intention of the Supreme Court was to be a nonpartisan, strictly legal governing body. Anything.
Oh, they're saying the Supreme Court is out of touch because it's too political. Jack, come on, bro. Jack, when was the Supreme Court nonpartisan, dog? What the fuck kind of...
I think in fairness to him, this is a mistake I would make. And I probably would discuss this further in the video.
Take is that holy shit, these people have gotten duped.
Thing is contingent now on how many people on the Supreme Court have R's next to their names and how many people have D's next to their names.
I don't think the Supreme Court makes decisions based off what society wants. They make decisions based off what the law says. The Supreme.
That's bullshit. That is bullshit, because that is literally how the Supreme Court is supposed to work. How society wants it to, how society is supposed to interpret the Constitution. Now, of course, that's the whole point. The whole point is someone is saying, this law is a little bit vague. I think it applies here. And someone else is saying, no, I think it doesn't. And the Supreme Court is there to say, yes, it does, or no, it doesn't. That sort of thing. Amongst other things such as like, oh, well, this law doesn't work because it's actually against the Constitution. That type of thing. Okay, so you need to amend the Constitution. That sort of thing. Anyway, the point is, at the end of the day, is that yes, they're supposed to make a decision on society, not based off reading the laws, because that's the whole fucking point. They're making a decision whether the law is accurate or not. That's the whole point of the court. In order to size up laws. That's their job, to size up laws. There's not much point if they were just like, well, I don't know. That's the point. To look at the law and to gauge whether the law is in favor of this or not. For fuck's sake. Anyway. Just not.
Supreme Court is a non-political branch.
What? What did you say?
They make decisions based off what the law says. The Supreme Court is a non-political branch.
Yeah, this is where I was talking with this fella over a year ago actually well over a year ago, maybe a bit more. And I believe basically we were discussing the Supreme Court, and one of the things they were saying is, oh, but the Supreme Court isn't political. And you're like, yes, it's not supposed to be political. And this is kind of what the moderate fellow was saying. It's not supposed to be political, but it is, though. So just because it says, oh, it's not political, that means that's what you want. That's your wish. Please don't be political, Supreme Court. But your wish hasn't come true, because the Supreme Court is political. Like, in both ways, Democrat and Republican. Although you could argue, as I said multiple times already, Democrat and Republicans are basically, both right wings, so, it doesn't really matter. Actually, kind of jealous because the Republicans are, like, closer to fascism than the Democrats are to being left wing.
Oh my God, he said the Supreme Court is actually doing its fucking job, which is what the law says. Remember all the fucking strict textualists, by the way? The fucking originalist interpretations. None of those arguments were ever present when talking about affirmative action. Did you guys notice that? If you listen to some of the SCOTUS conversations that took place over the affirmative action case, weirdly enough, every single Supreme Court justice that is an originalist who is supposed to look at the law and try to think about like how people would normally interpret it, every single one of them, for some weird reason, was simply talking about like, well, what about this? What about that? They were talking about more so the intent of what not abolishing or not destroying affirmative action would do to college campuses, which is kind of libbed up. So what was that about? Oh, wait, it's because they don't give a fuck. It's literally just politics. And if you're not understanding that, you're a fucking sucker, okay?
So disagree with that. The executive branches and legislative branches weren't really necessarily created to be political either. They were created to create laws so that we could live moral and just lives. The Supreme
Oh my God, dude.
Once again, the statement is the Supreme Court is out of touch, which, technically, if you just shut up, then you could make that argument like, oh, I think they are in touch, just not with the majority of the people, just with certain people. But the thing is, though, is that when you start arguing, that's they were created to do this. It doesn't fucking matter what the claim when they were created, for the reason they were created was, because guess what? They, well, either the creators, will be very disappointed with the way their creation went, or else possibly the creators may have been, fibbing.
Those dudes built those fucking branches while they had the concept of white, male, land-owning slave owners in mind. Every single aspect of that societal design revolved around, unironically, making sure that women and black people, and even like whoever they considered to be non-white, was not able to participate in this democratic process. That's crazy. That's a crazy take to have.
Supreme Court and the judicial branch as a whole is something that was created to be nonpartisan, but unfortunately that's not realistic in 2022 anymore. And that's why I don't say they're out of touch, because we're all out of touch. And if everybody's out of touch, then we're all in touch, right?
No. That makes very little sense.
Well, not necessarily. It would just mean all.
Like if we've all got different positions, then you're still out of touch because you've got a different position to the majority of people. Like I don't see how exactly that makes a difference. You could say, oh, that doesn't make them bad because, oh, well, they're just like us. They're shit. You can make that argument, but you can't make the argument of, oh, they're in touch because we're also out of touch, but in a different way.
And all of us are out of touch.
If you look at the foundation of this country, there were political parties within the executive branch and the legislative branch. There were no political parties in the Supreme Court, never.
Yeah. So, like in terms of the founding fathers, they were heavily against political parties. I think the process outside of the Supreme Court probably determines.
Like there was like no political party. No, the Republicans weren't for like 1854. I'm not sure exactly. That kind of thing. Like that's a significant stretch of time. And that, well, at the end of the day, that's the thing there. Like, but although I don't think necessarily you should be talking about like the founding fathers who, the slave owners.
Supreme Court judges is like the messed up process, not necessarily the Supreme Court in of itself.
I just think that we should never politicize the Supreme Court.
Really, the best thing we can do in this situation is try to make general public a lot more a part of the process of determining whether or not these justices should be in that place based upon not only their merit, but also like the things they're advocating for. But rather than it being based upon like specifically the political parties, we need a multi-party democracy so that multiple different sides are looked at different times and say, I want to pick a libertarian, or I want to pick a social democrat, or a socialist, or a liberal, right? There are lots of different options that we should have in order to have more of a competitive.
You probably should. I know, smart idea, chucking the libertarian there, because that was smart. But like also just chuck in the fascists, so the Republicans can go, I'd vote for, because they're gonna think, that a nice little bone there to throw them, because I've thrown bones to people before in discussions, and it's. I mean, sure, sometimes they just don't fucking get them. You're just like, God Almighty, like you really are like Anyway, so yeah.
Competitive political marketplace.
Wouldn't
It's
it make
crazy.
it more
He's a
political
socialist.
for the people to choose their judges?
Yes, absolutely.
Wouldn't
It's
it make
crazy.
it more
He's a
political
socialist.
for the
So, but wouldn't it be
people to choose their judges?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm pretty sure we do vote in the people that pick the Supreme Court justice.
You vote for the president.
Okay, you absolutely. That's not what we call democracy. That's not actually true democracy. Also, you don't actually vote for the president. I know this might come as a shock to some stupid Americans, but you don't technically vote for the president. You vote for someone who says they'll vote for the president. That's how you get your little like mini votes. That's the mini votes are your electoral college, where you're like, okay, we won the, that kind of thing, or the state votes, which is a very weird system. I have to say. I guess it kind of makes sense somewhat. It's like, okay, well, but I guess the argument you can make is why not just say, okay, to be president, you need to have at least 60% of the voter base, that kind of thing. But I guess the issue really with saying is, okay, well, we'll redraw them so that they have to have like different populations, so we can restrict it so that major populations can't just shove in a president. I mean, yeah, but like, it has some merit. It's kind of flawed. Not kind of flawed. It's incredibly flawed.
We vote for the president, but
And
those are for other
the
topics
senator
in
that
particular,
also
not
burned-
necessarily like jurisprudential or like
Also,
law.
your president doesn't, like, you don't choose. Like, do you understand? If your president is giving this lifetime position, someone could literally just lie, and then what can they do? Like, boot them?
Law in particular.
I'm hopeful about my future.
Here in the United States, we have the ability and the opportunity to be the best nation in the world and live up to
No, you fucking don't. No, you don't. No, you really don't. Sorry, mate, you don't. You just don't. Unless you mean that other nations are so bad that the United States would just be better, just kind of like, just cause. In that case, maybe. But definitely not a good nation, I really don't think you do. Now, you could argue if you had immense luck and, just like insane sort of stuff came out, that maybe then, but like according to the current track, don't have hope for your future in that case, because you certainly don't on the current route. You're going to become in a worse and worse country. No offense to Americans, that's not your fault. Well, it's some of your faults. Not necessarily your fault if you're listening and you're American. Not actually your fault. But it is some Americans' fault.
to all the ideals that we grew up with and thought that we had. Look at all of us. We're willing to have a conversation, whereas years ago, we might not have sat down. We might have hated each other for having different types of beliefs. So I really think that shows the type of growth potential that the United States has in particular.
I personally think I have a great future in this country, especially being a woman, because I can sit here and wear what I want, say what I want, and have just as many rights and equal facilities as you do as an...
Not equal rights. I also wouldn't depend on that staying. The women don't have equal rights to begin with. Not in my country, not in America. Definitely not America. So first of all, women don't have equal rights, and even the small bit of rights that, there are people in the Republican Party, for example, and the Democratic Party that would be kind of fine with, drawing back a few rights. I'm just saying, wouldn't hold out on that now.
Yo, you're a conservative though. So like, is she a moderate? Is she a conservative? I thought she was a conservative, right? At first, I thought she was a moderate, but she's a conservative, right? What the fuck are you talking about, dude? You're literally a conservative in an era where, like, your grandmother and your mother had more basic liberties in terms of bodily autonomy than you do, depending on what zip code and what fucking state you live in. Like, does she not know that? Does she not... Is she completely oblivious to this reality? Was this shot before the fucking Roe v. Wade decision? Like, what's happening? It is like
I would probably say not, because the Supreme Court question would typically not come up. Most people didn't really think about the Supreme Court as much. But then the Roe v. Wade decision got leaked. So maybe before it was a decision, but you'd still be aware it was leaked. Unless, you could be one of those conservatives who are like, I don't know though. Like, if you're a conservative and you're like, oh no, it's fake, it's like, well, you're still putting your support in the party that put them in there, so, well, you don't want to be very careful thinking, oh, it's fake. You don't really know.
Historic misstep that just happened, and she's just like, nah, it's fine.
Other countries, that's not awarded to all women or even all people. And I feel that our country gives us.
Yeah. And it's certain, equal rights are certainly not awarded to all people in America. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? My country probably has more equality than America does. And that's not saying something about my country. The equality in my country is pretty shit, actually. But the thing is, America is such a bad country when it comes to equality. Like, such a bad country. Like, here it's kind of like, you have a small enough group of people who are, like, hateful. But, like, a lot of them it's just incompetence and not caring, which is still very bad. But, like, the kind of disrespecting people's rights. Like, that sort of thing. It's generally down to incompetence, although sometimes you just wonder, is that down to real incompetence, or is it just somebody going, oh, no, I made a mistake. That's it. Oh, you made a mistake. You're fine then. You just let, like, a couple of people die. That kind of thing. But basically what I'm saying is, America is very much not. Like, I know, obviously, there are countries that are worse than America. But also, the way America's going, will it be worse than America for long?
Some of the most privileged in the world.
So for me right now, I live a great life. I have a house, I have a cat, I have 2 dogs, and it's great. But
Taxpayer. Are they? If they're not a taxpayer, they have a house like. Also, teens. They have a house? Like their own house? This is the issue calling them teens. I don't like when people call people teens and they're not really teens though. Like if someone is 19, like sure they're in their teens I guess, but are they like, because you're not calling them a teenager,
But I feel like things could always be better, and I think that's
true.
what I like about this country is that we have a government.
You've got a government that is constantly trying to make things worse, actually, like, literally, you've got a fella called Ron DeSantis, who, if you're viewing this in the future, may be the president of America in the future. And he literally, like, he's just a homophobe. Just is, Like, I am never going to Florida. Unless I, like, absolutely need to. Because you don't know what would fucking happen to you there. Also, Florida's a very, I'm just saying, the government there, not great. Although, who knows, maybe you're viewing this again in the future and Ron DeSantis was, hanged in the street by the Floridonians who were like, we have enough of this, we've had enough of this, we're not letting you persecute people for being who they are. Maybe that's the case, who knows, but anyway, I'm just saying,
Where we can actively participate in, and
no, you can't. You literally vote for them, and then they decide for you.
Changes that we want to see.
I think that I am very scared for my future. I grew up 2 hours away from a Ku Klux Klan headquarters. If that tells you anything about where I grew up, there's probably less than the amount of fingers I have on my hands of people of color in my school. There was a lot of racial heat that I got growing up, and it forced me to grow up a lot faster than I thought that I'd have to. If you look up Harrison, Arkansas, it's known as one of the most racist cities in America, and you can see...
Well, that's a massive problem. In America, it's a very racist country, but yeah. But, yeah, it's... Yeah. It's one of those things, yeah.
In America, and you can see, if you're on TikTok and you see, we visited the most racist city in America, that's going to be Harrison, Arkansas. My mother...
Yeah. It's not seen as a particularly welcome place. That the place near it is... Yeah, it's a weird thing. isn't it? Though in America, you have literal like Nazis. Just, you know.
Is white, but whenever my mom would drive through Harrison when we were going somewhere, she would put a blanket over my crib while we were in that city just because she felt unsafe for me. And whenever I hosted the Black Lives Matter protest, a lot of members from that Ku Klux Klan organization in Harrison were making groups saying that they were going to come up and harass us and harm us. And it's a very scary thing because you read about the Ku Klux Klan in history books. It's a very different thing to hear them personally tweeting out to you that they are going to come and that they're going to harm you. As much as
Interestingly, the Ku Klux Klan were also about religion, so take care, people who are not a religion the Ku Klux Klan believe in.
The country is growing. I'm also not going to invalidate the fact that there is a lot of issues that are still stemmed very deep in a lot of people's brains that are still being acted out upon and causing me to feel uncomfortable to live in my country.
As a Black woman, I just feel like being anywhere in the world, it's not just America. There will always be somebody who does not like a person of color, and there will always be someone who wants to assault.
Yes, but are they in power or not? Because in America, there are a lot of them in power.
We are making progress, but in the same way, we can always go backwards. In Detroit, I just was not happy. Being around white kids at school, I think they are taught to believe that Black people are maybe lower than them. And even if it's not taught, it's something ingrained just in society.
As someone who is not, quite as dark as you, but lives kind of a similar lifestyle, I'm trying to say is that I understand. I really do. It's still a thing that can be stronger than ever, especially with the benefit of social media. I think it's something that we need to grow past if we're going to make the world better for our children. But I think we're also right here, which is a very diverse group in and of itself, but I think we're going to be...
It's made up of, apparently, teens who are like liberal, who can technically be actually conservative in America. Conservatives who, if any of them seem like to be just kind of almost fascist, like supporting fascist candidates, that type of thing. And moderates who appear to be basically conservatives. All I'm saying is, it's not a very diverse group, really.
Be one of the least racist generations ever, which kind of goes without saying.
Oh, good God, it's not. It's not.
This will be the century that is just completely eradicated, at least systemically.
Trust me, boy. Trust me. This fucking generation is in no way is it that way. Because, as I've said before, I would hear probably, a homophobic slur or gay being used as an insult once a week, once every 2 weeks, and that's what I would hear. I'm a single person, keep in mind, and like that was my experience in school, So that's one person, and then you expand that. Well, then how often is that being said? So I'm just saying, at the end of the day, it's just, let's not be believing in yourself when, it's believing in this generation as if it's, it's great. No, it's not. It's filled with horrible, horrible, horrible people.
Well, I hope you're right. And it obviously is a privilege to live in the United States.
Listen, I'm too Caucasian. I'm not going to talk about colorism. I'm not going to talk about any of that, okay? I'm going to see myself out of this conversation.
I think we're going down a very...
Said what he said. There's something weird about fucking Zoomers that want to be right-wing, okay? There's just something deeply broken in their brains. Right-wing Zoomers across all boundaries are just so fucking strange, okay?
A dangerous path. Freedom of speech is under attack in this country. Freedom of thought is under attack.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Freedom of speech is under attack, is it? You have literal Nazis. Like, open Nazis. They're openly Nazis. Like, if that was anywhere in the world... Well, not anywhere. But, like, if that was in a few places in the world, they could very possibly get arrested. You know. So no, freedom of speech is not under fucking attack. You fucking Americans. Like, Jesus Christ. This is the problem, though. At the end of the day, like, there are Americans out there who actually are, you know, are not completely stupid. They're not this fucking stupid, like Nathan. So, no, freedom of speech is under attack. No, it's fucking not.
Attack. Standard
Like,
of
wait,
living.
this country is free. Who is attacking you? Who's attacking you? Is there a natural chance? Like, I don't know. Maybe, well, any country that, because we have to ignore all the countries that America's attacked first, you know. So that very few countries have attacked America that America hasn't attacked first in some shape or form. Any country that has attacked them first hasn't really. It doesn't seem like they have a chance to get from a country's freedom. Just saying.
It has decreased dramatically. People aren't doing better today than standard of living has decreased dramatically.
Okay, that's kind of a left-wing thing to argue, though, isn't it?
People aren't doing better today than
sitting my white ass down and
yeah. Here's the thing, though: the standard of living has dropped because of wealth distribution. Because there's more wealth in billionaires and millionaires. That's why it's dropped. You know.
I'm listening.
What do you mean we're doing worse off now? Like, what are you looking at in terms of how did you determine whether or not we're doing worse off?
Well, there's so many things to look at. One of it is how divided we are politically. But at the end of the day, we are the future. And I hope that we don't follow what they're doing. I hope that when our generation goes into Congress, I hope that we're not so politically divided as they are now.
One thing that gives me a lot of hope is just like all of us right now here.
I just want to pull this.
Like, politically divided, isn't that sort of the point, though? It's that you've got, if the country's diverse opinions, that you've got diverse representatives. Also, Democrats are not that different to Republicans, so, you know, just saying. Are you that politically divided, or is it more that you're just arguing because you're just on the other side, so you have to say no? Like, you can't, even if you would introduce a bill, if you're in government, you have to vote against it if it's the opposite side.
This dude aside and ask him a question. When you say, I hope that our generation's politics are not as divided, I want to know what you mean by that. Like, for example, are you open-minded to the idea that someone is going to, put together a vanguard party and potentially fucking create the dictatorship of the proletariat to inevitably erode all facets of socialist government and finally reach a communist utopian existence? Like, are you down with that? Is that an idea that you'd be on board with? Do you even want, when you say we want to cast aside our differences, do you also mean just fucking healthcare? Let's nationalize. Let's completely eradicate privatization on commodities and services and goods that are an absolute necessity for survival. The government should provide the bare minimum.
I would argue more than an absolute necessity is required. Necessity to function as a society. Because, you will have people who will use their power to threaten, and even if not, the people can be forced into these positions. So, it's best to have everything that is essential, just flatly everything that's essential, under government control or under the control of the people. Depends.
Means shelter. That means healthcare. That means a certain level of food. Okay, adequate food. Do you believe that is fine? That's appropriate. You know what I mean? That's chill. Or do you have differences in the way that you want to deal with that? Because I talk about fucking casting our differences all day, every day, but I fully understand that at the top of the hour, there's going to be some people that see an ad and some people that don't see an ad.
Yeah. And then there's going to be some people who, just don't see it at all. Anyway, that was a video. I know this video that I'm reacting to. The video I'm reacting to was like 50 minutes long. So, it's been a long time. But yeah, I've had to record this in chunks. So if you noticed any little edits, that will be the fact that I had to record this in chunks because I don't have a lot of time. So, so yeah. sort of a while of a difference there. But anyway, so yeah, at the end of the day, I would say when it comes down to it, main points to take away from this: Democrats and Republicans both on the right wing. And yeah, I don't necessarily think America should necessarily have hope. I wouldn't necessarily say it shouldn't, but it's a bit of an argument. Like, anyway. At the end of the day, thank you for watching. There should be links to Hasan's actual his actual YouTube channel in the description and all those sort of things. And hopefully, I guess you'll come back next time. Hopefully, we'll see you then. I guess. Bye bye.